It's great to be here with you on this Monday. I'm Kevin Thomas. He is Ben Troop. The Braves into the All-Star break. They sit 2.5 games back behind the New York Mets. You had the MLB draft last night. The Braves with a couple of picks there on the day one. Of course, if you had a dad who was good, you probably had a good chance of getting drafted last night. So it would seem. We'll go over that. Ben, it's SEC Media Days. Always a big time. Our own Christian Gokel is there. We'll check in with him and get some of the newsmakers of the day. We'll hear some comments from Greg Sankey as he addressed the room today. Obviously, you have LSU, Ole Miss, I believe South Carolina in the room today making the rounds. So we'll hear from Shane Beamer, Lane Kiffin, Brian Kelly, some comments there as well. I mean, the first biggest thing everybody wants to know is, who is the official bean sponsor of the SEC, and it's Bush's Baked Beans. So that was that news came out before Greg Sankey ever even took the podium today. It was news everybody had to know. New official bean sponsor of the SEC.
I don't know if that means that maybe they haven't been eating enough beans and in the SEC. Roll that beautiful bean footage. The dog, I think it's a golden retriever. He's sitting there, saying, and he's really looking like, hurry up and ask these questions, man. I got to sit out here and take these pictures. But no, Kevin, it is the biggest spectacle known to man when it comes to media days. All other media days pale and compare. I mean, think about the Big Ten. It was all about being open for business, introducing your new commissioner. Then the man, the myth, the legend, that dude, Greg Sankey, stepped up to the podium, savvy, understanding that, look, you guys got to ask me. You guys got to ask me certain things. I'm going to filibuster this thing. I'm going to be professional. I'm going to be punctual. But I'm going to say a whole bunch of nothing. But no, Kevin is here. Brian Kelly has already been up there to speak. Lane Kiffin had a lot to say as far as like NIL goes, which, I mean, when you think about it, these coaches do interviews all the time. The only time they're going to be kind of like on display is for the next 4 days. Lane Kiffin will go on the main stage. He's talking about NIL, saying there aren't any rules. It was a bad idea because of how it's, and you know what that means? That means that Lane Kiffin ain't benefiting from NIL right now, right? That's what that means. Because if he was,
that's become the new thing. I mean, I saw the talking points from Brian Kelly, Ben, and you saw earlier in the offseason, we've seen guys come out. Billy Napier at Florida said, I need this much to keep my roster together for, NIL reasons and all of that. We've seen other coaches do the same. And a question was asked to Brian Kelly. He's like, hey, you're at LSU. I realize you may not have as much money for the collectives and some other schools. He said, whoa. Like, he shut it down quickly. He's like, who said we didn't have enough money? Like, we got enough money. Like, and so that's one of those things where that's that you're already defending that. Like, we're trying to figure out, are the collectives a good thing? Are they being done a certain way that's right? I think, a lot of them have the right idea. Are these collectives potentially giving out deals before students get on campus, which they're not supposed to do, some of them? And now it's, who said we didn't have enough money? Well, actually, Ole Miss is here and South Carolina. They might be the ones saying that, you go there. They don't have a lot of NIL collective money set to the side. And Brian Kelly that was like question number 3. And his response was, who told you we didn't have enough money? I.e., we'll come up with enough money.
Oh, yeah.
And he goes, his follow-up sentence was, I haven't seen the exact figures, but we're fine. So you're defending how much of a slush fund you have to pay your players with already. This is nuts.
But
that we're coming right out of the gate.
Kevin, isn't that him kind of saying, look,
sure,
this thing is going to get crazy here soon. So let me not act as if, quote, I didn't know I know. They said I can't be involved in negotiation. When it comes to, just think about a coach. Coaches got publicists, they got managers, they got agents. They make more money than just what they do at LSU. They got different kind of deals.
That'd be a good follow-up question, Coach. I thought you weren't supposed to have anything to do with the collectives. Well, I don't, but they got plenty of it. It's fine.
Everything is, you know who's part of the collective, right? Yeah, I can't know who's part of the collective. I'm just trying to see. But this is the thing too, Kevin. Look at what the coaches are doing. Texas A&M, they'll be number 1 in recruiting. Alabama will be way in second. They're number 2. Georgia come in at number 3, 4, right? Number 3, 4. Billy Napier come out and say, hey, man, I need a certain dollar amount so that other people can hear, oh, okay. Because at the end of the day, right, you need to be working with a certain dollar amount. So then Brian Kelly will go, no. My goal is to understand, you know, what the lay of the land is. When you say, whoa. Who said we didn't have money? No. We got some cheese. It's just the fact that, like, I want to make sure I know where the cheese is going. Like,
I mean, it's funny how, again, when they said, they didn't say, they said, we understand you may not have as much. Whoa. Who said that? Who said we didn't have as much money? Like, there's no, like, when it comes to the SEC, the biggest insult you could say is you don't spend as much money as the next guy. You know, whoa. Who said we don't like to throw around money? We will do it. I mean, LSU, this is, of course, the program that started putting, mini flat screens at every locker in the locker room, so that, while we're having our team meeting, guys can be watching TV in their locker instead of listening to the coach. Right? No, but anyway, look, I think that I thought that was kind of interesting. Where a lot of questions for Greg Sankey were about expansion, were about, what do you see with the conference? And I thought we'll hear from Greg Sankey, but I thought, Ben, you're going to hear that, and pretty much every coach is going to get asked, like, how are you preparing for Texas and Oklahoma to come in? Greg Sankey's like, hey, we're still working on a scheduling model and all this and that. And I still think most people believe Texas and Oklahoma will be in sooner than 2025, but they got a lot of questions on that. And I thought Greg Sankey played the part. Greg Sankey came out and said, look, we're the SEC.
Come on.
We're happy where we're at.
Come on.
We feel like we enhanced the brand with Texas and Oklahoma, and we didn't cost ourselves tradition. Arkansas and Texas go way back. Texas A&M and Texas can play again. We got some Big 8 members from way back in the day. They're back in, going to get the chance to play each other again. So he's like, I feel we've enhanced the brand. We're good at 16. No, I'm never going to. Then he followed with, I'm never going to say never, but we're good at 16. And kind of playing the part of commissioner of, don't say something that's going to come back and bite you. Don't say, no, we're never going to go past 16. Just say, we're good. And I think he is the one conference, maybe the Big Ten as well, but he is certainly the one conference that, as we heard reported, we don't need to add any more teams. We can, but we don't need to. Mm-hmm. What if the Big 12, what if the Big 10 goes to 20? Well, what if they do? Mm-hmm. They're still not better than we are. Mm-hmm. And I think he said the right phrase of, like, now if we see relationships out there that can enhance what we're doing, i.e. more money.
Yes.
I see that, but I thought he played that part beautifully, right? When he got up there.
You were watching a master class in how to control narratives and how, notice I said control them. Chip, why would Brian Kelly say, whoa, because LSU was watching. Hey, bro, don't make it seem like we ain't got no money. Greg Sankey go, look, we're fine where we are, but there's some relationships out there, aka people I've spoken to behind the scenes. Come on, man. Because like you said, Kevin, if bringing in someone else is going to bring in more money, it just makes financial sense. But right now, today, we're good at 16. Like, of course, because this is the thing. The only two teams out there that even be worth our time is Notre Dame and North Carolina. Those are the only two. Because we get the whole state of North Carolina and it's freaking Notre Dame. Could you imagine if Brian Kelly was really there to just infiltrate, come in at LSU to tell them what it takes to get because Kevin, this is the thing, right? Listen,
that's a whole new level of pettiness.
But think about this. Okay. He leaves Notre Dame. And Marcus Freeman go, man, I appreciate it. And coach gave him that handshake like, no, I'll see you soon. What you mean, coach? Nothing, man. Just congratulations, right? Because Kevin, if there is a conference that's good enough to pull in Notre Dame, if it is the SEC, because at the end of the day, say, look, man, you still maintain your brand. In a sense, your brand gets bigger because of where you are. Didn't you say the ACC didn't help your brand? Because if they did, you would actually, I don't know, play them in football and actually accept them, the fact that you're in the ACC. You don't do that. You stand alone, right? The SEC will go, look, if you're good enough, whatever that means, you're going to win it all, which you're probably not. You couldn't win it by yourself. You sure as hell ain't going to win it when you come on this over here. But hey man, y'all like money, right? We could always work something out. But you gotta meet our terms first, though. Like before we say, Notre Dame, we get it. And obviously North Carolina, but yes, Kevin, Lane Kiffin is saying, look, dude, we ain't LSU. We ain't Texas A&M. We ain't Georgia. We ain't Alabama. We ain't got no money over here right now, right? I really got to go out and recruit dudes and develop dudes. But I want to read this to you, though, Kevin, because see, this is what when people say, who is Billy Napier talking to? And this obviously they don't get that till Thursday. The Gators Collective. The Gators Collective sent out this. They said there are 3.3 million Gators fans in the state of Florida. 3.3. If 5% of us, 5%, become members, that's 165,000 members. At $10 a month, that's almost $20 million. But at $20 a month, that's almost 37 mil. And that's almost 40 mil just from, people that love Florida.
Yeah.
Because what happens is, Kevin, you know what this is about. What do wealthy people do? I got to out-wealthy you. I got to do something that you haven't done yet. What is that? Hey, man, I want,
I would love to be able to out-wealthy somebody.
How do you do it? How do you do it?
Whatever.
Okay, show you what I mean. Sometimes it's just a moment.
You want to know how I do it, Ben? Go ahead and make that drink large.
Yeah, here you go. No.
But you can't do that.
No, I want to drink to spill out the cups. Let's spill out. No, like I think it was the 2021 draft. When they drafted, the Dallas Cowboys drafted, Michael Parsons. Where's old Jerry? He's on his yacht. Why? What y'all sitting at y'all facility? Now they all got him. He said, you know what? The other owners are saying, man, you told me you weren't gonna be on the yacht. Man, I ain't get back in time but no, I like listen. SC Media Days. Everybody's touching down at the College Football Hall of Fame in the ATL. The biggest, the brightest. They there. Greg headline by Greg. Like the commission is supposed to be the headline. Now, I think that have their moment, bringing I think about design. I want to kind of, keep this. I want to keep them on the wraps because kind of big 12 different kind of see. Sometimes you ain't always ready for bright lights. Everybody can handle that big stage, getting asked questions. But if you want to see a master class talent, IQ 2021 Davis. Miss him, he's fine. But how he held court, I think that's what. Why do they bring guys that are charismatic? People that can kind of switch from just talking about, X and O's. Hey, man, listen, man, growing up, man, I used to want to be a DJ, man. I want to call myself DJ Oreo because I love Oreos. What? It's almost like, because, but the thing is, Jordan Davis is a hell of a football player, too. So, yeah, Kevin, it's going to be star-studded starting today. I mean, you 4 days, top to bottom. But isn't it ironic that Texas A&M and Alabama ain't there on the same day? Georgia, Alabama ain't there on the same. That is by design. Because I would love to have, at the OK Corral, here go Kirby walking out, and there go Nick Saban. You look up at him like this.
We got you.
Good game last year, coach. No. Nick Saban goes, good game last year, coach, and Kirby goes, I know. Yeah, I know. Because that's a moment of time. But yes, it is the SC Media Days. It is the best conference in the country. The most powerful man in college sports. The biggest names, coaches, universities in sports. Not named Oklahoma, Texas, maybe Notre Dame, USC. But yeah, Kevin, it's gonna be crazy all week. But Brian Kelly kind of sounded like Brian Kelly. I was like, accent, nothing.
He said, he goes, I feel like I should have just been in the South the whole time. With the way I feel at home, okay.
I mean,
you and your family.
Brian Kelly said they asked him. He sat on the stage with Tebow, Ben Watson, McElroy, and what's the guy's name? Sassator. What's it? Oh, his son was a kicker at
Joe Tessitore.
Joe Tessitore. I didn't want to mess with Sassator. I don't know who that is. Joe Tessitore. They was asking Brian Kelly, how have you earned the trust of
Yeah.
these LSU players? And he said, oh, simple. He said, man, I take care of their bodies. He said they care about their physical health. They care about their physical health and the food we give them. He said, and that last one is how we came together. He said, because he said, I didn't know that food is good.
Yeah.
Like, he said, you know, food is good when you eat it and you look at the person that gave it to you, bite it, go, like you're like, yeah, man, that's just to see. But no, I will say this, Kevin. Like I said, Brian Kelly wanted some of that action. Like Brian Kelly kind of wanted to, you know, kind of get, because, you know, everything's got to be buttoned up and freaking, come on, man. Like Notre Dame, So we're going to see what happens with Kevin. Hopefully by the end, he'll hit us with a family right before you get back
There
on
you
the
go.
plane or something.
We've got more to come here. SEC Media Days just getting started. We'll check in with our own Christian Gokel. We'll have some interviews from SEC Media Days, some sound from SEC Media Days as well. It is 3 and Out all across the Southern Pigskin Radio Network. We are streaming live, ESPNCoastal.com. Hit us up on Twitter at Pigskin Radio. We are streaming live on Facebook, Twitter, and YouTube as well. So plenty of places to get us here on the show. We're coming back with more on the Southern Pigskin Radio Network. Good to have you back here on this Monday. Kevin Thomas, Ben Troop, thanks for being with us. ESPNCoastal.com. You can get us online as well as Facebook, Twitter, and YouTube. Go to our YouTube channel, ESPN Coastal on YouTube, and get all the 3 and Out shows, Second Down, and more. There, watch along, or you missed the show live, go back and soak it all in. SEC Media Day is going on this week, Ben, and of course, Kirby not going to be there till later in the week. I think it's Wednesday is Georgia's day. Today you have Brian Kelly, Lane Kiffin, and Eli Drinkwitz with Mizzou. So you got some personalities. I think the biggest thing Eli Drinkwitz apparently is bringing to the table is he's growing a mustache. You know, I guess everybody's got their Brian Kelly. We're like, what are you doing? Are you going to have a fake accent? You're going to win games? What are you doing? Then you got Lane Kiffin. It's like, Lane, what can you say that's just wild? And he's talking about, you know, I think he kind of said some of the stuff he said about NIL in the past.
Yeah.
We'll get to that coming up. We'll hear from our own Christian Gokel as well on the show. But Ben, you've got obviously Greg Sankey started it all off, and you know he's going to get a lot of things to talk about. State of the SEC, bring in the money, but a couple of things he said I thought were very interesting. And people said, "Look, you're going to 16. How do you maintain what makes you great? You're the SEC. We live in each other's backyards. We have traditional rivalries. You're bringing in Texas and Oklahoma. How do you keep that tradition with 16?"
Well, there's a balance, and things are going to change. We have an opportunity to honor a lot of those traditions, depending on the scheduling model that's chosen. We spent a lot of time on that. We've got more questions to answer as we go into the fall. We don't have to just pick something by the start of the season or by Thanksgiving. We have time that we want to use wisely, but we do need to have an answer. And, you know, seeing what happens with the CFP. I told the athletics directors and our presidents in Destin, you know, this summer we'll be able to have some questions answered. I just didn't understand what would be the questions that are being answered for us. And so as you wait, you learn from COVID, you have more information to make decisions. That said, you know, the 2 schools we do add tradition. So there's the Texas-Oklahoma game, the return of Texas and Texas A&M playing. Arkansas and Texas has a huge, long-standing, historic tradition. I've been to dedication of buildings on Arkansas's campus and heard Jerry Jones and Frank Broyles talk about 1964. We left as boys and came back as men when they went from Fayetteville to Austin. The game in 69 with President Nixon present. Missouri and Oklahoma, that's a quarter of the Big 8 that will now be in the Southeastern Conference if you really look back historically. So there are traditions that can increase by this expansion, not simply take away. They're additive, not just something that subtracts.
And that's Brian Kelly. That's Greg Sankey been talking at SEC Media Days about keeping the tradition despite going to 16 teams. Do you think it's possible to do that? And I know, I mean, what he said, I'm not arguing with. It sounds good. But do you think that's possible, adding those 2 teams, that you can still be kind of what has made you great?
Yes, because Kevin, the thing about it is there are going to be certain traditions that's going to be upheld every year. There are going to be certain traditions that you're going to have to. That's kind of going to be on that wavering scale. But yeah, there are certain ones, Kevin. I think certain traditions are college football, regardless of what conference they're in. I think that the Iron Bowl is college football. It just happens to be the SEC. I think Florida Georgia is college football, just to be in the SEC. I think the Egg Bowl is college football, right? I think the Red River Rivalry is college football. This is how you know. We know about these things, whether you in the SEC or not. You just know about certain games. Now, what you're talking about, Kevin, is, hey, is Auburn, Georgia going to remain there? That's going to be one of those ones, because we understand that with adding Texas and Oklahoma, it's going to shake things up. It's going to have people saying, oh, I know they're not going to. Because this is the thing. There is one thing that for it actually to be a tradition and us to think it is a tradition. And Greg Sankey understands that. These coaches understand that. But once again, when I was in the SEC, it was 12 teams. That's back when Tennessee and Florida was the better teams in the SEC East. Georgia came along towards the end of my college career. In my senior year, Georgia, Tennessee, and Florida, we all tied for first in the East. I think I want to say Tennessee ended up going To the Chick-fil-A Peach Bowl. But now, Kevin, when you start talking about these traditions, certain ones, this is a tradition. The tradition is I dare you. Like, I dare you to get rid of this one. That's what a tradition is. Not, oh, man, I'm trying to tell you. Like, you know, Mississippi State versus Texas A&M. Look. Now, a renewed rivalry is going to happen when you talk about Texas and Arkansas. Like, that's something that we've gotten away from. Texas A&M. So ones that we've gotten away from because they were in the Big 12, they're going to get renewed. But I think certain ones, Kevin, Greg Sankey is being honest about it. Look, we're going to try to preserve as many traditions as possible, but we can't preserve them all. Like that. But the certain ones, if I say Florida, Georgia, certain people say biggest cocktail point, got to preserve it. What's the biggest bowl? Iron Bowl. Okay. What about Egg Bowl? Got to keep them. What is it? The oldest rivalry in the South? Is that
the
Georgia?
Deep South?
Deep South oldest rivalry. But yes, Kevin. But Kevin, this is the thing. We've been blessed though. We've been watching SEC football long enough to know, hey, man, we gonna have to say goodbye to some of them. Like some of them were starting to get really, really good. I mean, really, really good. Texas A&M, LSU was starting to get really, really good. But it just depends on who's gonna be. Because once them two big brands come over here, and you see who, I do believe Florida and Georgia tied to the hip. They're going to be in the same, quad or whatever. I think they're going to put them in there together. LSU, Alabama, Auburn and Alabama, they're going to be in the same quad. I think LSU and Arkansas, or LSU, Texas A&M, and Texas probably going to be in the same one. But the thing about Greg Sankey is, Greg Sankey has went through every single scenario behind the scenes. Man, I can show you how this is going to play out, that going to play out. This we done seen it 100 times. So much so, for those of you who have never really been in meetings, unless you're running the meeting, most of them boring as hell. Like, you don't want to do meetings, but when you got to do them. So Greg Sankey is saying, look, y'all ain't asking me something I ain't never seen, man. I got a statistician, dude. I snap my fingers and point at him. He's saying, now, if you do this, you do that. His job is to not be surprised by anything. But, Kevin, there are certain ones I think are going to be preserved, but I have been surprised before. So, is anybody safe? No. I would say that nobody's safe, but I got a pretty good indicator that certain traditions I think you got to preserve.
Yeah, Greg Sankey went on. He was asked, obviously, about 16 teams in the SEC, and obviously looking at what the Big Ten was able to do. Are they looking at expanding? Here's what he had to say about that.
Well, somebody will write that a smart aleck guy. We are a super league. I mean, when I walk through the recitation, this is a super league. So as I visited with our presidents and chancellors and ADs, now understand the timing is this news broke June 30. I did not gather that group until the next Wednesday. I wanted to make sure I learned what was actually happening. But also I didn't want a story like on Friday, the day after, or the SEC presidents are gathering, and then you have this ripple effect of they're going to do something. And so we wanted to be patient and wanted to communicate. Again, we're comfortable at 16. There's no sense of urgency, no sense of panic. We're not just shooting for a number of affiliations that make us better. Could they be out there? I would never say they're not. I would never say that we will. We're going to be evaluating the landscape. I'm not going to speculate. And I actually am watching a lot of this activity operating around us, more so than impacting us directly.
So there's Greg Sankey talking about 16. Obviously, he's cool staying at 16. Ben, as he said, for now, we're always evaluating. We're always talking about what we want to do. But right now, he said, look, with the information we have, 16, we're perfectly comfortable with that.
Greg Sankey was able to just satisfy all fronts, right? He said, look, if there are teams out there, like Kevin, once again, he goes, y'all talking about 16. Is it 16 here now? Like, we're dealing with the 14 now. Now, if this is 2025, I'm answering this question. Well, let me just call it what it is. There is 0% chance that the Big Ten is going to do something the SEC ain't. That's a total different conversation for another day. But he's saying, hey, man, you know what the other school is going to have to do between now and 25, not name Texas on. You got to show us why you deserve for us to go get you. Like, so now, and Kevin, think about how much better that's going to make a North Carolina play. Look at what we did for the ACC, man. You bring us over here. Boom. Notre Dame don't got to do anything. Sorry. Like, they good. That's a phone call. But Greg Sankey is saying, look, I get it. when Greg Sankey kept emphasizing this is a big conference or super conference, that's what he had to wrap his mind around. See, him being the commissioner, he don't like when people put names that he ain't been privy to. They're like, no, it is though, Mr. Sankey. You can't walk out there. It's a super conference without Texas and Oklahoma.
Yeah.
You know that, right? Yeah. Like we just call it SEC. Because if it's not a super conference, what is it, man? It's just no. Like I think that's what happens behind the scenes is those people who don't have as much power as him, getting him to come to terms with this is what it is. Because Mr. Sankey, guess what? They're gonna call it that even if you don't. It's better that you just get on board with it because that's what it is. Because if that's the case, what you need Texas Oklahoma for? Oh, well, come on. So yeah, he is saying all the right things. I mean, they playing politics up there, man. For those of you who know, they trying to make sure I'm saying enough without saying that much. Because when y'all go back in court and say, whoa, I didn't say this. I said it like this.
We've got more to come here. SEC Media Days, day one. It's LSU, Ole Miss, Mizzou, and of course the commissioner making the rounds today. We'll come back with more. It's 3 and Out on the Southern Pigskin Radio Network. Good to have you back here on this Monday. All-Star break is upon us. We'll have the Home Run Derby tonight. We'll get to that coming up. Obviously, the All-Star break, Austin Riley gets in by proxy, I guess. Somebody falls out. Austin Riley was in. I like the fact that he's there. Don't like the fact that's how you got again. You see this all the time with the Pro Bowl, Ben, where it's like dudes get sent and like 18 guys can't play. So then they just start adding other guys like, and you're a Pro Bowler too. It's like, I mean, I guess, but you know, I feel like Austin Riley should have been there without having to go through all that at the end of the day. And certainly his merits warrant him being there. We'll get to that coming up in just a little bit. But Ben, obviously, one of the new coaches in the league is Brian Kelly. He was going to be a splash guy because he had a big time program in LSU. He's coming in from Notre Dame. Did I hear Christian talking with somebody earlier on the show who said Brian Kelly is the first coach to leave Notre Dame that wasn't fired since like World War II or something ridiculous. Like Lou Holtz got fired. It's like, yes, you know what I mean? So it's like, you look at a Notre Dame as that dream gig. You don't just, as you said a number of times, you don't just leave Notre Dame. But Brian Kelly did it, and he was asked, you know, you come to LSU, you're a guy that, and he kind of takes offense when you mention this to him. It's like, you're a Northern guy, man. You've been at Cincinnati and Central Michigan and Notre Dame. Like, how do you earn the players' trust there at LSU?
Well, I think trust is a two-way street, you know. They're earning my trust too. You know, I think, it works both ways. First of all, trust is about saying something and backing it up. And then, I think continuing that relationship. We're working on that relationship every day through deeds, through things that we put in front of them and say that we're going to do for them. And backing it up, and then asking them to do some things for us and seeing that they back it up. I think in all three of those cases, we're building trust. As you know, Kayshawn was just awarded number 7, which we consider, a program number that highlights the very best player, in particular from the state of Louisiana. And that has to happen when trust has been formed. Miles has been one of our best leaders in our program. John Emery's done an incredible job of bringing himself back into our program. So I think you brought up 3 guys that have earned a lot of trust, and we're trusting them.
So there you go, Ben. There is Brian Kelly talking about coming into a place like LSU and trying to win over. When you say trust, what are you talking about? You're talking about winning over the locker room, right? That's what you're trying to do. Obviously, they're in Baton Rouge.
Brian Kelly shows you why he's been an incredible coach, the all-time winningest coach in Notre Dame history. He's savvy. Like, he can coach football. I mean, I don't think people understand. Look, I was the head coach for Notre Dame. I had 2 college football playoff berths. I had no pressure. I represented the biggest brand in college football for a number of years, and I was very, very successful. Very, very successful. If the only teams that are beating me are, are Clemson, Ohio State, and Alabama, well, they beat mostly everybody that step in front of them. Brian Kelly said it straight up. It's a two-way street. They don't got to know. Well, they know who I am, but they're going to respect me before they do anything else. And you got to earn the shit. You talking about Kayshawn Butte, who got that coveted number 7. Okay, we were talking about traditions last segment. That is you wear number 7 at LSU. You that dude. I mean, Leonard Fournette, Tyrann Mathieu, so on and so, Patrick Peterson, so on and so forth. But he also understands too, man, I got to win. While a coach can build trust in the offseason because of how he treating you like a young man, treating you like, somebody who's pivotal to this university, doing what it needs to do. But Kevin, just like I know, any coach is going to resonate what he says more if they're winning. If I'm yelling and screaming and, Dirk cussing you like a Nick Saban does, look at the result. Like, people go, I can deal with it. Look at the result. I want to go pro, check. I want to play with championships, check. I want to be the creme de la creme program, check. LSU did in 2019. Wasn't much to say before that, and it's been a little rough since, right? So Brian Kelly's going to have to do, I think, and you can say this. I mean, Nick Saban he's the GOAT. Kirby Smart just won one. You can say the harder job in the SEC could be LSU because all their coaches won that is. All of them have. I mean, Coach Orgeron used to get led. He's a player's coach, 2019 undefeated. Les Miles, man, he eats a freaking crab. Won a freaking won a national
Yeah.
championship. Nick Saban said his biggest regret at Alabama was leaving LSU. He said that. Leaving LSU. Who gonna bet an eye? So all I'm saying about a guy like Brian Kelly, he's trying to do something at a school that's tradition rich and their coaches winning national championships, but he's trying to do something he's never done in the hardest conference and the hardest division in the conference in college football. But when he said a two-way streak, meaning I am not negating the fact that, yes, I'm a seasoned coach, but the type of athlete that when I first got into coaching is not the athlete I am dealing with now. So either I'm going to resonate with them or I'm not going to be there. Because the one thing that's not talked about enough is Coach O won, but when he left, that's when all the baggage came, all this stuff that was going on, which I give LSU a lot of credit for keeping that. You're supposed to keep it under the wings. You get to kind of, get out a little bit. But, yeah, Kevin, I can appreciate what Coach Brian Kelly said. Look, once again, he sounds like Brian Kelly. He's down there. He's down there in the Cajun Creole South, but he is from Massachusetts, right? He is not. And I don't know why he takes such offense to saying you're a Northern coach. Well, you are. Like it's crazy, right? If I'm from up north and I only coached up north, it's because I resonate with those players because I'm from here, right? But if I go to the West Coast, trying to recruit the USC Trojans coming there,
I think he took offense to it because
Yeah.
I guess the inference being, oh, well, you're not going to be able to recruit Alabama, Mississippi, Texas, and places like that. I mean, people know who Brian Kelly is. He was at Notre Dame, won more than Newt Rockne at Notre Dame, didn't have the national championship, obviously, but won more games. As the winningest coach at Notre Dame. They know who he is. I think, to me, the biggest question is, and I think it's a fair one, is Brian Kelly going to resonate with players in the Southeast?
Yeah.
I'm not, because Notre Dame came down. They came down to Georgia and got players. Brian Kelly has recruited the South, but he's also with a different brand. It's like it's Notre Dame. Like everybody understands.
Don't gotta
So,
say much.
How do you resonate, as you said, Ben, with guys that are, you're not fighting Michigan and Ohio State for this guy. You're fighting LSU, you're fighting LSU, you're fighting Alabama, Auburn, Arkansas, Tennessee, Georgia, but you're fighting everybody in the same neighborhood for a lot of these kids. That's going to be interesting. Looking at the roster now, do you feel like he's got the team to compete? And I don't mean compete for a championship because I think Georgia and Alabama are way out there in front of everybody. Does he have a roster where if he gets a system in place, and you can't argue results, say what you want about Brian Kelly, his family, and all that, the results on the field are what they are.
Mm-hmm.
Like at Notre Dame, you could say he was getting good players, maybe not good enough to win the national championship, but they were in the playoffs. They had some excellent seasons. Does he have a roster to compete, and by compete, maybe beat Texas A&M, be number 2 in the West?
Yes, he does. Now, this is the thing. Guy like Kayshon Boutte, he's going to be a first-round pick. This guy's one of the best returning receivers in the SEC, if not the best in some people's eyes. You talk about Ojulari, yes, and to you Georgia fans, yes, that is the younger brother of Azeez Ojulari out there. So he got some pieces, right? The biggest thing that Brian Kelly's going to have to run into is, this, Kevin, no one cares about your deficiencies once to kick the ball off. See, we know about what you lacking. We know about the fact that Max Johnson is no longer, in LSU anymore. He's moved on to greener path. He's moved on, right? But guess what? This is LSU. The one thing that Brian Kelly has at his disposal, you have the biggest brand, take nothing away from the Saints, biggest brand in the state of Louisiana, biggest brand. That's taking nothing away from Southern. That's taking nothing away from, different schools, Louisiana. You got other schools, and but you run it. Hour down the road from New Orleans, Baton Rouge, and Kevin, you know this. You know what we do? We forget about deficiencies when they kick the ball off too. Like we know, they got quarterback troubles. Who's going to do this? Who's going to do that? Nope. You get blinded by that. You get blinded by that gold and purple. Got to go out there and get it done. Because Kevin, let's say it. No one saw what they did in 2019. No one saw that coming, man. We need to stop that. Joe Burrow, the same Joe Burrow that won the national championship in Heisman, the number 1 overall pick in 2019, threw a pick 6 against my Florida Gators to lose at Florida the year before. So with Brian Kelly, it's saying this. The biggest thing, Kevin, you left Notre Dame for this. So I hope you got a plan in place, because the one thing that no one gets anymore is a mulligan. Ain't no more, well, this is first year, and he better do something. Because if not, like, he got brand equity, but the product on the field got to match it. That's the hardest thing in football right there. Does your product match what you selling? What you mean? Like, it got LSU on it, but it smells funny. Like, because the thing is, right, Kevin, because what happens is LSU ain't nobody finna feel sorry for LSU or Texas A&M or Auburn or Ole Miss or Mississippi State or Arkansas. Go out there and get it done. But when you got the whole state at your disposal, Alabama got to recruit against Auburn in that state.
Right.
You know, South Carolina got to recruit against Clemson in that state. Florida got to recruit against Florida State, Miami in that state. Maybe even UCF, depending on who it is. Who LSU got to compete against in Louisiana? Nobody. So he's going to get some really, really good players. But Kevin, you know, at the end of the day, if he's 3, close to 2, people go, all right. But if he's 4, 5, they're going to be like, bro, we might have made a mistake. Because, Kevin, unfortunately, we have microwave. We have microwave expectations. I want to put it in, press start, and go ding.
It's ready.
It comes out ready.
There you go. Hey, we got more to come. We'll check in with our own Christian Gokel for SEC Media Days, day number 1. Lane Kiffin. You still got Eli Drinkwitz to come. The commissioner's been on stage, and of course, we talked about Brian Kelly. More to come here. It's 3 and Out on the Southern Pigskin Radio Network. Good to have you back here, 3 and Out on this Monday. Home Run Derby coming up tonight. All-Star game on Tuesday night. Bad news if you are a Braves fan. Mike Trout out of the All-Star game. You say, well, what's the big deal? Angels are actually coming to Atlanta after the All-Star game, and Mike Trout going to be on the disabled list. So hopefully you get to see Ohtani. You won't get to see Mike Trout one of the few times they actually come to Atlanta, Ben.
Yeah, Kevin, I think it's one of those you feel bad for just a casual fan of baseball. We talk about one of the greatest talents ever known to ever pick up a baseball. But yeah, you feel bad for that, man. Hope he gets well soon, because you do want to go up against the best. Problem is Ohtani, got to deal with him.
Yeah.
Let's see what happens with that.
He is the best.
Yeah.
Ohtani is having a great season, doing something that's ridiculous. And it's one of those things like you talk about in the SEC. It's like you want to grow the game of baseball, yet in Atlanta, unless you go this time, you won't see Ohtani, but right now, or Mike Trout play in the ATL. Don't get to see him. And they play on the West Coast. We ain't staying up that late. That's already been established. We got more to come. Take 3 around the corner. We're from our own Christian Gokel, SEC Media Days, and more. Good to have you back here. It is 3 and Out all across the Southern Pigskin Radio Network. Kevin Thomas, Ben Troop, glad you're making us a part of your day. We'll check in with our own Christian Gokel from SEC Media Days in just a little bit. We'll hear some other great stuff he was able to track down there at SEC Media Days. A lot happening with the commissioner taking the stage there and more. So we'll get to that coming up in just a little bit. But Ben, first, it's 4 o'clock. Shall we? Let's take 3 here on 3 and Out. All right, take 1. You saw the news over the weekend out of Major League Baseball. Juan Soto, 15 years, 445 million or 55 million, 30 million a year. He said, nah. Then what must it feel like to say no to almost $500 million?
You winning in life.
That's take 1. It's like, but we talked about this, and this is kind of the heart of it, of when you're turning down that kind of offer, because people said, well, that would only make him the 15th best player or 15th highest paid player in Major League Baseball. And he's on a last place team. I'm not saying you don't get paid commensurate with what you're worth, but that's the money wise, that's more than Trout's getting.
Mm-hmm.
That's what, and I know people say, well, what about average annual value? What about the big number? Like, it's all guaranteed. It's baseball. Like, that's the part that I think a lot of the naysayers when it comes to baseball, and I get it. Your job is to stick up for baseball players, say, well, he's only going to get paid. No, he's getting the most money ever given to somebody in one contract.
Yes.
And he said, nope. No. Like, that's his, I mean, again, I'm not counting his money, but that is crazy.
Okay, this is the thing, Kevin.
So either he really doesn't want to be in Washington.
He don't.
Or,
but I will say this. What division is Juan Soto in?
National League East.
If you've noticed, there's a guy that plays the same position on a team that matters. And the thing about Juan Soto is he's going, dude, y'all just paying me to stay here, right? But I don't see no winning in sight. And that's the thing, Kevin. Like, that's when you know times have changed.
But again, and I know individual contracts, they don't care about the economics of baseball. But if I'm Juan Soto, and this is a tale as old as it's been around in Major League Baseball. If you're paying Juan Soto $455 million and you want to be on a team that can compete, you can't get $455 million. Now, well, you can, but you're going to have to take it at $30 million a year.
He goes, it's going to hamstring that team.
You look at the Mets. They're paying Max Scherzer $40 and $50 million. At some point, I know Steve Cohen's a billionaire, but at some point, he's going to go, fellas. Yep. I'm not spending any more money.
Nope.
Because I want to put a team out there.
Especially when you don't get the result. See, that's the thing, too, right? Let's just call it what it is, Juan. You're that type of talent.
He is. I'm not taking anything away from him.
You're that type of talent. But this is the thing. And you have a little, because you get that much money, you got leverage. But leverage has an expiration date. It's not all the time. Right? It's not all the time. Mike Trout knew he was going to be an Angel for life. Mike Trout knew, hey, man, I'm going to be the best player on one of the worst teams with with a generational talent in Ohtani, and we're not going to win anything. Why? Because if you paying me and him like that, you can't pay anybody else. Like, that's the thing. There's only so much money to go around. Unless you got the Los Angeles Rams general manager doing your team for you, because I don't know how they get all the players they get. Juan Soto is saying, look, are you willing to take less money to go to? Because $440 million, like, what? I want to say Stanton started. Now, Stanton didn't get that much, but he started with those crazy contracts when he was with the Marlins. And then, obviously, Derek Jeter was like, hell no, you got to get up out of here with that. And the Yankees was like, all right, cool. Then you talk about, I remember Albert Pujols. I remember when $100 million for a player was like,
right.
Goodness.
And he got a 10-year deal.
But the thing about Juan Soto is he's going to realize it's quick, though. There are teams out there willing to pay you that. It ain't many. But look at the teams that are paying players that much, right? What are the Phillies doing? Trying to catch the Braves and the Mets. What are the Angels doing? Nothing like that. I mean, it's bad. It's like, what is
the Mets? We'll see. I mean,
the Mets
they're winning right now.
We'll see. I just think the thing about Soto is they're saying, look, man, at the end of the day, right? Are you willing to walk away from this money? Because the Nats gonna say, okay, dude, we gave you about as good as a deal. Can't get about as good as a deal if you're gonna get in sports. Period. If we trade you,
I mean, I know you can argue the annual value of it at $30 million, but again, you're given the life of the contract. You're getting more money than anybody's been given ever in one contract in Major League Baseball. And you said no.
I'm just saying, Kevin, this is what let me just say this. If somebody's offering Kevin Thomas $440 million.
Yes. You didn't even finish the sentence. Yes.
Here it is. Kevin's in the meeting. Kevin's negotiating, him and the missus, and I just happen to be walking by. And I hear $440 million.
Yes.
I ain't trying to get in y'all business or nothing. What are we talking? Because at the end of the day, right? At the end of the day, I think we place a premium on things that people want to win championships, Kevin. I get it. But dude, at the end of the day.
But we see this in every sport. If you take a little less money, you could be on a better team. Basketball, we've seen that.
But listen, listen. If y'all don't think the Braves culture is real, think again. But I will say this: if that was Acuna and the Braves, yes. No, he's gonna say it. No, his interpreter ain't got to say yes. Sign it right now, but we'll see.
No,
but I think they own Rice Soto for like the next 2 or 3 years, so they got time to bargain with him. But we'll see. But $440 million, people ain't just jumping for joy to sign those type of contracts.
Because I think a lot of teams look at it and say, for what we would be willing to pay you, we could sign 2 or 3 guys to come in.
And how do we know you're gonna be even? I don't know. Good 15 years from now.
Well, that's true. That's true. I mean, you see that's the thing that scares me when people are like, why don't you just give Acuna like a 50, like 10 kind of scared me. I'm like, you're giving a dude a 10-year contract at age 22. I'd much rather give him but everybody wants the security of that. And I think part of what, people would say, oh, the Braves put one over on Ronald Acuna. No, Ronald Acuna knows, hey, I'm getting $100 million for 10 years, whether I pan out, whether I don't. And I do think the Braves will renegotiate and we'll end up with an extension for Ronald Acuna at some point. But you're right. 15 years been in pro sports, period, is an eternity of a contract. And again, I just look at it and say, if your goal is to get paid, you can do that. They just offered you the most money anybody's ever been offered. If your goal is to win championships, again, Yankees, Dodgers, Mets, maybe Red Sox, you got 4 places that you can go to where you can get paid. Because I'm assuming if average annual value is a problem, there's 4 places you can go to where they will pay you $40 million. And at some point, even the Dodgers, yes, even the Mets, even the Yankees will say, really don't want to spend any more money. We're trying to make money at the end of the day. And
the Yankees ain't won a championship since 2009.
And I mean, people said, oh, Juan Soto is going to the Yankees. And people said, Juan Soto goes to the Yankees. That means Aaron Judge isn't going to be an Yankee.
So if Juan Soto stays, quote, on the East Coast, in a sense, or he stays on the East Coast, that means if he's not with the Nats, and he stays on the East Coast to that team, if he goes from DC to
Mets or Yankees,
Bronx, there's no Aaron Judge.
You can't pay everybody.
People go, Aaron Judge ain't winning nothing now. Like, I get it. He hit bombs. I get that part. When the Yankees ain't want us to do that, they popping bottles for the playing game. He's trying to get his money, man.
All right, moving along. Take 2, Ben. Who do you got in the home run derby tonight? You got Pete Alonso, Kyle Schwarber, Juan Soto, Julio Rodriguez, Acuna, Corey Seager, Jose Ramirez, and Albert Pujols, who has the longest odds. Obviously, he's the oldest guy ever to, I think, be in the home run derby, and he's obviously hit the most home runs in his career of anybody ever to be in the home run derby. He's getting close, and he's hanging around, I know, trying to get to 700.
I'm gonna listen. I mean, I'm gonna have to go with obviously I hate to go against Ronald Acuna, but I just think Pete Alonso, like, there are certain people that are built for stuff. Pete Alonso is built for this. Like, he's going for the 3-peat, right? And Kevin, this is the thing. Like, certain people get there. Pete Alonso is a good player. I'm not saying he's not. He is. Pete Alonso is more famous for this than what he does with the Mets. Like, he's more famous for winning, home run derbies. And there's nothing wrong with that. Like, Nate Robinson is more famous for winning the dunk contest than his career in the NBA. Like, there's nothing wrong with that. And, Kevin, this is Pete Alonso's niche. Like, he go, hey, I'm the polar bear. Everybody's watching. Like, he literally got a 30 for 30 because of this. So, for me, Juan Soto, obviously, him being the new, they're going to be like, bro, he going to be out there going, bro, they're going to be out there, 445, 455, bro, you don't want to. So
I think it's at Dodger Stadium. So I think it's there. Somebody asked me earlier, I'm going with Juan Soto. I think, hey, I'm about to show you why I'm going to get more than $400 million.
Kevin, all right, Kevin. I know you're finna get this.
I know Kyle Schwarber's got the girthy.
If you are the teams that can pay him, how much does a how much does a home run derby like make you say, look, man? the
No, I
dude
think
got-
it's just more icing on the
but,
cake.
But
I
at
mean,
the same time, if Juan Soto does win it, right? Do he go, see? Like, it's like, look, dude, you 24 years old, and we offer you $455 million, and you go, no. What the? like, it's almost like think about this. No.
like how good? I mean, seriously, like how good a spot do you have to be when somebody says, "All right, we've never offered this before. In fact, nobody has." It's sort of told, nah,
hold on
you
for a
can do better than that.
The
No.
owner of the Nats.
I'm sorry, I didn't mean to go back to
The
that.
Nats is at the house. He tells the GM, call me when he signs, and I'll come up here, take the picture. Just call me. All right, he's sitting in the house. Look at his phone. What's going on up there? He said no. What? He said, you sure? He said, yeah, he said no. He said right there, put one. What? No. What? Like, Kevin, once again.
Is this your best offer? What do you
Like,
mean?
what else you got?
Nobody's ever made this offer
What else you
before.
got? What? Like, all I'm saying is, on a team that's not really doing much right now.
Yeah, no, they're dead last.
You're a generational talent at what you do. I get it. And there was a dime a dozen. Kevin, if you could turn down $455 million, you are winning in life, sir.
Yeah.
I hope you are.
I didn't mean to go back to that after the home run derby, but he's in it. I'm going to go with him.
All right.
I feel bad. Acuna's up against
And
Polar Bear.
now, if Vlad Jr. was in that thing, I
Yeah.
would have went with Vlad
Kyle,
Jr.
Kyle Schwarber's kind of girthy. He might
Yeah.
have a chance to get.
This
So-
is about the girth. Sorry, you vegan in shape, 190 pounders. This ain't for you. Why? Listen. I need them cats that eat carbs. Man, they're killing that ball.
That's true. Look, I think I said I think I put Acuna with 5, and you said 8.
Yeah,
So we'll see what
We'll
happens.
see, yeah.
I feel like it's one of those things where Acuna is a home run hitter. The home run derby might not be. I could be wrong. I mean, Freddie Freeman hits home runs. I knew when he got in the home run derby, it was not going to go well
yeah.
because
That's not.
when
his
he
speed.
comes out and says, ever since you've ever heard Freddie Freeman, what do? I try to hit devils. I try to hit in the gap. If it goes over the fence, it goes over the fence. Okay, so you want to do home run derby? Yeah, sure. Probably not going to go well. But I got Juan Soto. I don't know if Acuna is going to make it to round 2. You got a tough draw. You get the Polar Bear. I get it. It is what it is. All right, Ben, finally, take 3. People talk about talent. People talk about natural ability. But genetics apparently reign undefeated. How surprised are you that you had 4 former major leaguers and 1 ex-NFL tight end son all drafted in the first round? First time 4 sons have been drafted in the first round of the MLB draft. Plus you had Eric Green's son,
Yeah.
Elijah Green, top 5.
Yeah.
Very good player. He got drafted last night. Genetics, they play a big role in this thing too.
Kevin, remember that old saying, hard work speaks talent when talent don't work? Yeah, I'll be trying to tell y'all. Because think about this. Once again, everybody thought that, Andrew Jones' son was going to go number 1. He went number 2, right? Once again, scouts, right? There's a chance, not even a slim chance, that the same person that scouted Andrew Jones is scouted his son. Scouts don't go away. These dudes, you got the old school scouts, you got new school scouts. But this thing, Kevin, we were saying this all the time. We are more surprised if Andrew Jones' son can't play baseball. Like,
Sure.
What do you mean he can't play? No, it's almost like this. I'm getting the best coaching in the world. No, son, you got to turn. What? Like, what is a hitting coach going to say if Andrew Jones walks up and goes, leave him alone? All right, leave him alone.
Yeah.
Like,
I think in the coming years, you got Manny Ramirez's son is going to be in that pool. It's like, yeah, there's going to be a lot of former players with sons who
we
are.
got this kid that we got this big lefty, man. What is it? Sabathia. Named Sabathia, right? Like, Kevin, think about this. Once again, it's not coincidental. Now, for every former professional athlete that has a son, it don't usually go that way. But when it does, we're not surprised. Like,
How many? And again, a lot of these kids were in MLB locker rooms and things of that nature when they could, growing up around guys at that level. Obviously, they have access to those guys and probably some different coaching than most guys get. But Ben, how many kids, when you were at NFL, not maybe in the crux of the season, but when y'all have light workouts, how many kids of guys on the team, especially the sons, are hanging out, throwing the ball around, and watching dad do what he does?
it's a grip.
Probably a bunch.
It is. on Saturdays, on Saturdays we got walkthroughs. If it's a home game, a lot of times they'll just let when we get when the walkthroughs kind of come to an end, we'll let the kiddies come in there. And a lot of times, this is a known fact. While your father is, quote, one of your favorites, usually you're not your kid's favorite player. It's a player on the team. That's usually how it goes. I mean,
Because the other guy's just dad.
yeah, like Trevon Diggs, Stephon Diggs' brother, the DB that plays for Dallas, they're doing Hard Knocks last year. And his son, who became a little star, kept saying, man, I love Dak Prescott. He's my favorite player. They sitting at a ice cream parlor. Love Dak Prescott. They getting ice cream. Who walks in? Dak. And Dak walks in. He goes, what's your name? And listen, he's so starstruck. He's so starstruck because Dak ain't got his jersey on. And he goes, and he said, what's my name is? He goes, Russell Wilson? He says, Russell Wilson. He goes, no, he said, he went, Dak Prescott? And because Kevin, once again, Patrick Mahomes grew up and, around baseball. But he has the genes, right? He has them. And when people say, wait a minute, man, Eric Green, yeah, Eric Green think about this. Eric Green went to Liberty. He was a first-round pick. So just because, and people go, well, why wouldn't his son play football? Have you seen, you got guys turning down $445 million. Like, and in a sense, Kevin, what has happened is you get the way stuff. Yeah. Former professional athletes are not. It ain't the same thing. Like everybody ain't a Manning.
Sure.
Everybody ain't finna be number one overall picks.
Yeah.
With they grandson and nephew being the number one recruit. My son playing baseball, Kevin. At the end of the day, pick up that bat. Learn. No. Get them fundamentals, son. Play a long time.
That's take three out. You talk about. I heard Matt Holliday's son, who was the first overall pick. $8 million. They said reportedly $8 million signing bonus. Here you go. Go have fun in the minor leagues. $8 million.
Yeah, don't call me.
Yeah, you got your own cheese, son. Right. At the end of the day, we got more to come. It's 3 and Out. Southern Pigskin Radio Network. Welcome back to 3 and Out here on the Southern Pigskin Radio Network. Kevin Thomas, Ben Troop, glad you're with us. SEC Media Days going on in the ATL this week. Second down.
Back here on the Monday edition of On the Line, live from SEC Media
Below a
Days
flat
here
screen
at the
TV of
College
some kind.
Football Game in Atlanta. Jacob Goins
Amen.
on ESPN.
Christian,
7 Auburn,
how's it going here, day number one?
Oh, it's awesome to be here, man. It feels like the overall emotion from it is just narrowing the scope, right? We've talked about so much stuff that's college football, quote unquote, but we actually haven't talked any college football in such a long time. So it's really nice to be around all the players and the coaches and the other media members here on Radio Row, focusing just on 2022, what we're going to see on our screens coming up this fall, right? None of the big overarching questions. Commissioner Sankey hit on some of it, and it's obviously always going to be a conversation, but talking football that we're actually going to see here in a few months has been amazingly refreshing.
Christian, when you get to see people in person, like you'll see, Brian Kelly in person, Greg Sankey in person. I like to get people's demeanor, behaviorisms. What has been those guys' behavior? Because they got to own these rooms, and I don't think it's coincidental that the very first guy out the gate, out of all the coaches, was Brian Kelly.
Yeah, so Brian Kelly, I thought was interesting, right? Because just things you don't think about. He's been at Notre Dame for a long time, and he didn't have to do media days, right? There's not a conference for Notre Dame. They're by themselves. They don't do these. So this is the first time he's done media days since he was at Cincinnati. And to tell you how far he came, he shared a story with us that while he was at Cincinnati, he went to their media days, and no member of the Cincinnati media showed up to cover their media days. So they're there. He brings 3 players with him, ready to answer questions, and during the rotation, they're just sitting there and nobody comes by. And he said he got on to some media members about that, saying, you guys are going to criticize me during the season, maybe show up before the season and hear what we got to say. So that was an interesting dynamic from him, and the overwhelming, I guess, narrative from him about why he took the LSU job is the challenge, right? You get to come in, compete against the best, right? Just take the SEC out of it. Just talk about the SEC West and the head coaches that they have over there, right? It's just the who's who of head football coaches from all around college football, all kinds of different styles. But he wanted the challenge, understands he's got a great recruiting base in Louisiana, but also understands he inherited a really good team. Got a chance to catch it with B.J. Ojulari, right? Potential top 10 pick, all SEC kind of player, right? He's not inheriting nothing. So that, again, excited to compete against the SEC West, but probably doesn't think he's as far back as a lot of media members think from competing.
Oh, yeah. And Christian, when you come to the SEC, I think Ben and I were joking about, you find out you compete in everything. I saw one of the questions to him was, hey, we know LSU might not have the money other schools do in terms of these collectives. And he kind of said, whoa, who said we didn't have enough money? So now you're fighting the recruiting battle, the perception battle, the money battle. I mean,
right.
You're stepping into competing on all fronts. Where at Notre Dame, wherever you went as Brian Kelly, you own the room, right?
Yeah, and I guess the question becomes, what do you think was the difference, right? So there's 2 kind of narratives around Brian Kelly, right? One of them is he's a really good coach and he can get his team to the college football playoff, but they're going to get smoked when they get there because that's all we've seen so far, right? Or get to a BCS national championship and get blown out of the water. The other narrative is Brian Kelly's one of the best coaches in America, and you just handed him the keys to a Ferrari. Now, not saying Notre Dame's not. Maybe Notre Dame's a Maserati, right? Still an amazing vehicle, still really expensive. Don't want to scratch it. You're not closing it with your foot kind of stuff, right? But LSU, in terms of your recruiting base, you don't have to leave 30 miles to go out there and get some of the best defensive linemen, offensive linemen. Lord knows they got wide receivers and DBs, right? That's what wins national championships. And now with the transfer portal, if you don't have a quarterback, you can go out there and get one. So if Brian Kelly was like a step away at Notre Dame from winning a championship, I think he feels like being at LSU, being inside the SEC, where outside of Ohio State, every school that just continues to just gobble up all the top blue chip prospects is inside the SEC. This is where he felt like he had to come if he was going to take that next step and win a national championship.
All right, Christian. I mean, nobody loves college football more than you do. Describe the scene. I mean, the last time me, Kevin, and BJ were at the College Football Hall of Fame, they had to kick us out. Literally, they said, y'all got to get the hell up out of here. I mean, you guys are having too much fun. Describe the scene at the College Football Hall of Fame for those that's never been there.
Yeah, so think about where we've been, right? I believe it was 2018 or 2019. They had it here, but there's no Radio Row, right? Because they had it everybody set up over at the Omni, and that's where they were doing it, and then kind of a fan central where you could come in, get some autographs while the coaches and the players walk in. So no Radio Row the last time. 2020, obviously no SEC Media Days. 2021 in Birmingham, it's 50% capacity, right, that they were allowing in. This is the first time we've really been back to just full pedal to the metal. Everybody is here. Everybody's excited. Just so many familiar faces that we're getting a chance to catch up with. So it's cool to see, and it's the College Football Hall of Fame spectacular. So for those of you who haven't seen it, it's a full football field on the inside, and they've turned that into the main stage. So you just have table after table, row after row with media members, laptops out, cameras, and then they'll bring up the commissioner and he'll introduce the head coaches, and they'll get up there and they'll give their spiel about their team coming up. And then after that, take some questions. So it feels like the beginning of football season, and it's really exciting.
Absolutely. And as you said, we've talked a lot about everything off the field. And you have Brian Kelly there, Ole Miss and Missouri making the rounds with the commissioner today. And a lot of people, I saw this earlier today, and it kind of, peaks up in your mind because of all the Jimbo and Nick stuff back and forth. And, Auburn's had a whirlwind around Brian Harsin there. And, there's Brian Kelly coming into the league. Like, I think most people forget that Ole Miss won 10 games last year. And they were like a really, really good team in 2021. And Lane Kiffin obviously knows what he's doing offensively with that football team.
Oh, no doubt. And it's the narrative around them this year is, can they replace what they lost the way that they've done it, right? So you obviously lose Matt Corral. You do have a big majority of your offensive line coming back. We have 4 out of 5 offensive linemen returning for Ole Miss coming up this year, but they go out and they replace the one that they lose with a transfer, right? You go get God, I don't know why his name's slipping my mind right now, but the running back from TCU, Zach Evans from TCU, you go grab him, who Georgia fans should remember because they were hot and heavy on him in recruiting before he spurned them for TCU, right? So you go out there, you go get Jackson Dart from USC, 5-star. Don't know if he's going to start. If I had to assume, it's going to be him, but it's either him or Luke Altmaier. So the question is, can they kind of do the Michigan State model from last year where I think they signed 13 high schoolers in the past class, where you had Georgia signing 25, 26, 27, trying to get as many bodies in there as they can. They kind of split the difference this year and said, we can't recruit against Alabama, Ohio State, and Georgia. And that's not a knock on Lane Kiffin. Nobody can. So how do you change the method? It's I go out there and try to pick up some guys I feel like fit my system that have already been developed, already have college football under their belt. So the question is going to be, do these guys fit? You have a new play caller there as well, Charlie Weiss Jr., going to be calling plays for Ole Miss this year. I mean, Lane Kiffin's still going to be intrinsically involved, but Charlie Weiss Jr., the offensive coordinator there now, what is that going to look like? But I think people forget, last couple of years, Ole Miss has been a really good running team, top 3 in the conference in terms of running the football last year, just behind, I believe, Arkansas and Tennessee. Ole Miss was right behind them, so more yards per game than Alabama and Georgia. The real secret, I think, for Ole Miss this year, that's the question mark, is what can they do defensively? Last year wasn't pretty, giving up 190 yards per game on the ground. But like you said, Kevin, they won 10 football games last year, the regular season. First time ever. That's the first time that's ever happened in Ole Miss history. They've won 10 with a bowl game. They've never won 10 in the regular season before, but we're here talking about Arkansas, Texas A&M, LSU competing for that second spot in the West. Lane Kiffin feels like he's got something to say.
Christian, I mean, every year, we you go to SC Media Days, when you go, you be looking for the fashion. Christian, be like, look, man, someone be looking the part. Jordan Rogers is there. I seen Takeo Spikes there, Ben Watson there. But Tim Tebow is there. For anybody who don't know about Tim Tebow, if it's loose up top, it's gonna be schmedium down below. I mean, who's best dressed in that he's right about now?
Yeah, I think I told you this earlier, right? Kevin, I don't know if Ben told you this, but we had breaking news. Tim Tebow had on tighter pants than Marty Smith. So, I mean, it was Quad City. Tim Tebow's jeans look like they're painted on. And, not in a bad way. If I had quads like that, I'd rock it too. I mean, there's no wonder that man used to just run over SEC linebackers all the time. So, best fashion, though, probably Alyssa Lang, if I had to say. I mean, it's smooth. But player-wise, LSU looked clean. I mean, the gray suits. They had the gold accessories, little LSU pin up there, the tiger head pin up there, and then the shoes, of course, are clean.
Man, I tell you what, and again, just because it's not in Birmingham doesn't mean you don't get weirdos showing up to this thing, I saw Lane Kiffin signing a mustard bottle. Like,
Yes.
what are people doing? Like, why do people say, I know what? I'm going to go get this mustard bottle and Lane's going to sign it.
Okay, so I respect the hustle, right? Like I respect anybody that's out there trying to make a living, right? Especially in these times right now. Gas prices as expensive as they are, I respect the hell out of it. Funniest moment so far for me, Brian Kelly walking in, his first ever SEC media days. About 5-10 minutes before he gets there, there's probably 6-7 guys that have 5-6-7 helmets each with them, all expected to get them signed by Brian Kelly. Walks right by and says, "Hey, I'll see y'all later." It's like, damn, that's a tough business model. When you're relying on the kindness of somebody's heart, that is a tough business model.
Yeah, but I mean, you talked about it though, Christian. He's a seasoned vet. See, that's the thing, right? Like Brian Kelly, I will say that he G'd up. I saw him with his suit on. I said, look at him, he getting all G'd up. But then Eli Drink would come through there. He's trying to grow out the mustache. See, the weirdness is gonna sneak in. Sometimes it's coming from the head coach. Have you had a chance to see it? I think he's trying to draw one of them Kevin Thomas stashes these days, Christian. Eli Drinkle trying to grow out the stash.
Listen, I have no room to talk on facial hair, but I will say a facial hair note. Peter Burns has gone like full Miles Teller Top Gun, got the mustache going on right now. So, I mean, it is sweeping the nation. When are you going to do it, Ben?
Listen, at the end of the day, Christian, that's the only thing I got going for me right now. A little bit of it went from Peach Fuzz to like the Wolfman Jack. I'm trying to keep it going as long as I can. But Christian, since you up there in the ATL, Kevin said he might look a little different when you come back. Kevin might be growing it out.
I don't know that Kevin can, but I still love him. Kevin, you got some dirt on your face, by the way.
Yeah, I realize
it might be the camera. I don't know. It might be the camera.
Kevin didn't tell you about what Kevin said. I think Kevin was somewhere you seen a young dude talking about he growing a little peach fuzz, and the kid said, "At least I can grow."
Dang. Kevin, sometimes it's okay to just kick a kid.
I got him. Before we do let you go, for real, we'll talk about everybody that's there. Eli Drinkwitz, Missouri. You want to talk about a team that has real questions? I mean, LSU, obviously, Ole Miss, obviously. I think Eli Drinkwitz has done good with his coordinator hires, but they got quarterback questions. They got questions, period. Is this a team that's simply trying to not be Vanderbilt this year, or can they actually get up off the bottom and finish in that third, fourth range there in the East?
They're probably looking at second from the bottom in the East, but that doesn't mean they're Vanderbilt, right? I still think the East is good. I just don't think Missouri's team is up to snuff yet. They have a tough opening couple of games. They have Louisiana Tech, which they should win that game at home, and then they have to hit the road to take on Kansas State, who is a really, really good football team. Then Abilene Christian at Auburn, and then Georgia, Florida, right? So it's if I had to guess, the goal this year is 6-6, get to a bowl game, and end the season with a winning record, right? But that's not taking anything away. This is a better SEC East than we've seen in the past. It's a really good SEC West this year, but they're not Vanderbilt. I think Vanderbilt might win one game this year. That's me. Missouri should compete in a lot of games, right? They're not going to win 10 games. They're probably not going to win 7 or 8 games, but they should be able to fight for a bowl game, and I don't think that's a bad result for Eli Drinkwitz and this team.
Christian Gokel, they're at the College Football Hall of Fame in Atlanta, SEC Media Days this week. We'll check in with Christian throughout the show.
Bama Day tomorrow.
Say that again?
I said Bama Day tomorrow.
Man, people don't want to see Nick Saban.
Brother, Nick Saban travels, all right? He rolls deep.
Christian, we'll check in. I know, obviously, you got folks stopping by. We'll check in as you get a chance to talk to folks there at SEC Media Days. And, of course, we'll have you on tomorrow to talk about Bama Day and more, man. We appreciate it.
Yes, sir.
Christian Gokel joining us from SEC Media Days. We'll come back with more. It's 3 and Out on the Southern Pigskin Radio Network. We're streaming live, ESPNCoastal.com, as well as Facebook, Twitter, and YouTube. Good to have you back here, 3 and Out, all across the Southern Pigskin Radio Network. Kevin Thomas and Ben Troop, glad you're making us a part of your day. We'll check in with our own Christian Gokel from the College Football Hall of Fame and the SEC Media Days going on this week. And a lot of players and coaches are going to be making their trips through the car wash, as they say there in Atlanta. But Ben, let's go to the phones. We got AC back on the line here on this Monday. AC, welcome. How are you?
Fantastic. How you guys doing? Good afternoon. Thank you
Good.
for taking my call.
Appreciate you coming on.
All right. For taking my call. But I'm going to put you guys in a tough spot today. Let me get your prediction. I have 6 top college programs who's yet to enter a drought and win a national championship, even though they won in the past a long time ago. 6 are Texas A&M Aggies, Texas Longhorns, the Irish, and USC. Who is more likely to end their current championship drought? This is my take. I would take, if it's fact, I take the Trojans. Let me see what you guys have for me. Thank you so much for taking my call. God bless you.
Hey, appreciate it. Who ends the drought? He said USC. What about Notre Dame? What about Texas? I think Texas A&M is all the way back to what, like the 40s since they've won one? I mean, as long as Nick Saban's there, I think Jimbo is going to have a hard time. I mean, I'm not saying he can't do it, but as Ben has said a number of times, you beat Saban last year and you didn't even Atlanta. And Atlanta doesn't even get you to, I mean, you got to win there to get to the college football playoff most of the time. So I don't think it's them. Texas is, well, it's only going to get more difficult for Texas as they move forward. I'm sure they'll recruit some better players once they're in the SEC, but I mean, let's be real. Unless the college football playoff gets expanded, I mean, you're adding 2 more powers in there. How are you going to get out of there? I'm not saying it's impossible, but it's
trying to say who's gonna
in the drought.
For my money, I think USC is out the question because you talking about running the gun. You're not gonna beat Ohio State. Like you gotta wait, and then you might not be Michigan and Penn State depending on what happens. That's the thing about Texas, right? That's the thing about Texas. Texas is an outlier too, but I think Texas might end the draft. Texas gonna end the draft. Look, at least USC, I seen them win one. Texas, I seen them win one. I ain't never seen Texas A&M, so I don't even know where that come from. But they've been in the desert, so I'm sorry. But I think for me, Kevin, Texas don't have to worry about recruiting. Like, they're going to get big-time recruits. Texas is a quarterback away, is consistency away, is like a consistent team away. Because, once again, Vince Young and those boys, they was balling 2 years in a row. Vince Young is the whole, I'm back, we're back. Like, he the one who started that. So I give it to Texas only because they got the infrastructure. Obviously, they got, the money. They got the resources. They're going to get the players. They'll end it before. Come on, Kevin. I mean, this is the thing, right? The real question is, who's falling farther? Texas or USC? Because hasn't been much to talk about since 2006. What, Matt Barkley and all that. I mean, like Sam Darnold in the Rose Bowl. So for me, I'll go with Texas only because Texas is going to get the recruiting. I know it's going to be Kevin. What about USC makes you think they can beat Ohio State? I mean, I'm just saying. The only reason why you get to play them is because you're in the conference. Would you have ever played them if you weren't? Nope. Some can say Texas ain't finna play the teams they playing without being in the conference that they're in either. But I always give it to the team that got the infrastructure. They're gonna get the players, and I get, so my mind goes to Tech. Now, when we say in the drought, it's not finna be anytime soon, right?
They're just gonna be the first to do it.
I mean, Kevin, hopefully
whenever it is.
Well, Kevin, hopefully me and you still doing radio, and our kids ain't doing it. When it happened, they got to go, Dad, look, Texas.
It's been 60, 70 years.
Texas just word up like, man, go get me something to drink out the refrigerator. I don't care about no Texas.
I mean, it hasn't been that long of a drought for Texas.
Who's the coach of Texas? Vince Young Jr.? Vince Young Jr. is the coach of Texas? Okay.
I mean, it hasn't been that long of a drought for Texas. I mean, they just
I don't know.
not compared to Texas A&M.
No, this is the thing.
Not even compared to USC,
at
really.
At the end of the day, Kevin, we know why SC is prestigious. SC is known for 2 things. Right? It used to be Natties and Heisman. They got a grip of freaking Heisman Trophy winners, right? Texas has the brand name. And they only 2 Heisman Trophy winners, Earl Campbell, Ricky Williams. But then you got a guy in Vince Young who a lot of people say should have won it, even though, Reggie Bush did win it. Kevin, when I mention Texas A&M, what pops in your head? That's the thing, right? What, Von Miller? You know, Myles Garrett? Johnny Football? That's recent. I just think that the thing about it is when we start talking Texas A&M, I'm going to say this again. What? Based off of what? Like, what are we basing it on? I ain't never seen Texas A&M win. I'm not saying, what? No. That was Mississippi State that won all the baseball 2 years ago, right?
Yeah.
Ole Miss wins it this year.
Yep.
We're going to have to go in the archives.
I think Texas might have the best chance. I mean, Texas coming in makes it even more difficult for Texas A&M, even though Texas A&M a better program. I think right now, I mean, that's just one more team you got to jump over to try to make it happen. We'll come back more from SEC Media Days. It's 3 and Out on the Southern Pigskin Radio Network. Good to have you along here. It is 3 and Out on this Monday. SEC Media Day's been going on. They're in Atlanta at the College Football Hall of Fame. A great scene. Of course, Lane Kiffin. He's had a chance to step up to the mic and talk about his program. If we can.
I think we've had a lot of really good offenses you referred to because we've had really good players and really good coaches, assistant coaches. So that's always changing. I think, we don't probably do a lot of things not as well as others, but I think one thing we do pretty well is change our offense to our players, to our skilled players. And it's why, people will say we look so different year to year. That's not necessarily off-season studies. That is more who our players are. And now with the portal, we know less about that. So I can't really tell you right now what it's going to look like. We're going to need training camp to figure that out. As far as the quarterback, Jackson coming in, he's young, just like Luke. They just finished their freshman year. And so it was good to have those guys for spring. It's very competitive. We look forward to those guys battling it out and making them both the best that we can, because a lot of times you need both.
And that's Lane Kiffin talking about his offense real quick. There, Ben, as we got about a minute left, and a coach that'll adapt to what he's got. As he said, how do you go? You got Jackson Dart, 5-star coming in from Southern Cal. How do you adapt an offense around that guy when you've had Matt Corral kind of doing his thing the last couple of years?
every great play caller understands that I have to adjust my playbook to the skill set of my quarterback. Matt Corral, I mean, he was tailor-made for what Lane Kiffin wants to do, but that's the job year in and year out. Know your personnel, know their strengths and weaknesses, put them in a position to thrive. But Lane Kiffin, he is an offensive guru. He got plenty of plays for that young man. It's about him adjusting to the speed. It's about him adjusting to the scheme. Let him go out there and play natural football.
Again, Ole Miss 10 wins last year, Ben. People don't talk about that.
Incredible.
Lane Kiffin, say what you want about personality. Does he come off as smarmy? However you want to say. Duke can coach football and obviously can coach offensive football. And you played for him, so I mean, you got an idea about what he's about.
Got a very, very young Lane Kiffin when he was the then head coach of the then Oakland Raiders. But look, he's ran the gauntlet, Kevin. I mean, you talk about USC, you talk about the NFL, you talk about Tennessee, you talk about FAU now. You talk about Ole Miss has been doing an incredible job. Real similar to Sam Pittman. If they aren't in the SEC West, we're talking about them in a total different realm. Don't judge Ole Miss on what Alabama's doing. Judge Ole Miss on what everybody not named Alabama's doing.
Now, we've got more to come. Final hour around the corner. It is 3 and Out all across the Southern Pigskin Radio Network. Hit us up on Twitter at Pigskin Radio. Good to have you back here. It is 3 and Out on this Monday. He has been Troop. I am Kevin Thomas. Glad you're making us a part of your day. So much to get to. We'll check in with our own Christian Gokel as he's rounding up folks there at SEC Media Days. A lot going on, Ben, as the commissioner makes his appearance and says, hey, we're cool. We like 16. Now, we'll see if other things make sense. I'll never say never, but we are, he actually said it, we are a super conference. Any way you slice it, we are a super conference now. We bring in Texas and Oklahoma. We're still a super conference. We have big schools, big brands, great tradition. And he actually made the point. It's enhanced by Oklahoma, Texas. You get Texas A&M back. You get Arkansas, Texas back, which has a long storied rivalry. So he's like, you're bringing teams into the conference that have already some kind of linkage with the SEC. Now, Oklahoma at Georgia doesn't, outside of they had a tremendous game out on the West Coast in the Rose Bowl. Georgia or Oklahoma, South Carolina doesn't exactly reek of college football tradition, but, over time, I think they will. Will Texas-Mizzou become a game that's certainly? I think you'll have some of that. But Greg Sankey today, Ben, talking about, look, we are a super conference. I think they are enhancing the tradition. And I'll kind of reiterating that while I'm not going to say never, we're good at 16.
Kevin, he's embracing where he is as far as like he knows that whatever was before today is out the window. When's the last time a commissioner, embraced the fact that, it is a super conference? I think that's something that he had to wrap his head around, because if he comes in and tries to downplay it, come on, man, we know the type of moves you'll make behind the scene, and whether you haven't let us everything you're doing strategically or not, this is a super conference. Him embracing it, him embracing the fact that, hey, we know we are the most dominant, most prestigious, most visible, most influential conference in college football. And Greg Sankey, he's a super savvy, super professional, but he understands. But even before Texas and Oklahoma get there, Kevin, it was already super, but he's embracing it. That makes life a lot easier on him.
Absolutely, it's all going down there in Atlanta at the College Football Hall of Fame. Our own Christian Gokel there at the College Football Hall of Fame, and he's caught up with the CEO, the College Football Hall of Fame, Kimberly Bowden.
Welcome back into ESPN Radio. Christian Gokel coming to you live from the College Football Hall of Fame, home of the SEC Media Days 2022. And I can't think of a better person to talk about this event and everything that the College Football Hall of Fame has to offer than our next guest, the CEO and president of the College Football Hall of Fame, Kimberly Bowden, joins us here. Kimberly, I really appreciate the time. I know exciting time, College Football Hall of Fame, and just having college football players in the building. It's just got to be exciting for you guys.
It is so exciting. First of all, thank you for having me. I can talk about the hall all day, and yes, it is nice to feel like we're kicking off the football season and just have players and coaches and just all the excitement back in the hall.
Now, bringing SEC Media Days in here, so Georgia obviously is going to be a big crowd, but to have the history that comes along with it, what went into the conversation for you guys? They play the SEC Championship in Atlanta. What went into the conversation for hosting this year?
Sure. I think that when the SEC really started considering moving from Hoover, Alabama, which they hadn't been outside the state of Alabama right. For many, many years, Atlanta was a natural kind of first step because the SEC championship was played here and it is such a central location. I mean, Atlanta is a 2-hour flight from 80% of the country.
Sure.
So we actually hosted our first SEC Media Days in 2018. And so this is our second. It was a huge success, and we were scheduled to have them back in 2020, but that wasn't to be. So
well, obviously, a lot of things weren't to be that year.
Exactly. But no, we are so grateful to have them back this year.
Now, we talked about SEC Media Days being here, but the city of Atlanta, going back to just the concept of the College Football Hall of Fame, what was it about the city of Atlanta? Was it the central hub, just being in the heart of just college football country?
Yeah, you hit the nail on the head. I mean, it's about being a hub. It's about being, a huge tourist destination, a huge convention destination. And our location is kind of right in the middle of the sports and entertainment and tourism, mecca of Atlanta. And so we, the destination was perfect. And we opened our doors in 2014. So we turned 8 in August.
So when did the conceptualization around this really start? Because you said 2014 when it opens, but obviously a lot of years of work go into it before you guys open this. When did that conceptualization really start?
I would say it started in around 2010.
Okay.
And that was well before I was involved in the project. But, I have the opportunity to kind of learn the history and talk to and work with many of the incredible minds that helped bring the Hall of Fame to Atlanta. And so with, people like the Chick-fil-A and the Chick-fil-A Peach
Sure.
Bowl and people just really rallying around, bringing the Hall of Fame to Atlanta, feeling like we were the natural destination for it. They worked really hard to get it here.
So if you had to explain to somebody, because we hear Hall of Fames all the time, right? And I think for a lot of people, that just means it's a collection of people who are really good at the sport, right? But there's so much more that goes on here and so much more history to it. So if you had to explain to someone kind of the mission and the goal is of the College Football Hall, what would it be?
Sure. It is first and foremost, the Hall of Fame was established in 1951 to immortalize the greatest players and coaches in the game as role models for future generations. So we're the keeper of those stories, but it is our job to tell those stories so that other people can be inspired by the incredible coaches and players that we house here. The second part of that is to also preserve the passion, the traditions, and honor the fan bases.
Right.
The game wouldn't be what it is without
And I think we lost Christian there from the College Football Hall of Fame. So I'm not sure what happened there, Ben. But again, College Football Hall of Fame, you and I really enjoyed it when we went there when the SEC stopped there last. I mean, just an immersive experience. And if you're a fan of just the sport of college football, it's right downtown. It's, within walking distance of Mercedes-Benz, within walking distance of, what is it called now? State Farm Arena, where the Hawks play.
Yeah.
So within walking distance of that. And we had a lot of fun, man. It's like, it doesn't matter if you're, hey, I just like the SEC. No, they had I think Adrian Peterson's stuff was there from Georgia Southern when we went up there last, but Big 10, Pac-12, no matter what it is, they got something that's interactive and stuff for everybody to do.
Kevin, if you've never been to the to the College Football Hall of Fame, you're missing out on the treat. I mean, you walk in, they got all the helmets, whatever helmet you register lights up, and we got a chance to do some of the greatest calls in college football history. We got to go act like we was on. It is. Look, I know most of the time we hear about quote, us grown men, Kevin, as you mentioned, as we get older, the things we enjoy, they're getting scarce. So if you get a chance to just lose yourself, but it is incredible. I mean, they are incredibly. I mean, about as as gracious as the host you're going to be whenever you're at the College Football Hall of Fame, to treat you like family. But hey, I mean, Atlanta, as she mentioned, as Mrs. Elizabeth mentioned, it's the hub. I mean, from it's college football hub, SEC championship hub. It's only right that SEC Media Days be hosted at the College Football Hall of Fame. And hopefully, we could be talking about some of these future. Will Anderson is going to be in the building in 2 days. Could we be talking about his name going up as a College Football Hall of Fame? Bryce Young, you're in, sir. You won the Heisman. Sorry, that gets you in the College Football Hall of Fame. But yes, when you talk about showing a great time, I don't think it could be in any other city than Atlanta. But yeah, College Football Hall of Fame. If you've never been there, please do yourself. Please add it to your bucket list. It is well worth it.
Absolutely. And again, I'm glad kind of when we were there last time, we were over in the Omni Hotel because if I'm sitting where Christian is, I'm probably getting nothing done because I'm like, excuse me, I'm going to go check out this exhibit. I'll be right back. I promise you.
It's incredible.
I'll be right back.
I don't even know we got a chance to see everything, but it's like you go, oh, you hear this, you hear, oh, because it brings back a lot of memories.
Sure.
Because obviously when you watch it, we get so caught up in the right now of college football. You start saying, oh, dude, I forgot. And they got some of the greatest coaches of all time painted up there on the wall. It's incredible, man. The College Football Hall of Fame, they did an incredible job. And like I said, every time they open up them doors, you are in for a treat.
It is SEC Media Days getting kicked off. Greg Sankey was there earlier at the podium, Ben, and people talked about, first thing up, everybody wants to know about expansion. He talked about the SEC staying there at those 16 teams.
Well, somebody will write that a smart aleck guy. We are a super league. I mean, that when I walk through the recitation, this is a super league. So as I visited with our presidents and chancellors and ADs, now understand the timing is this news broke June 30. I did not gather that group until the next Wednesday. I wanted to make sure I learned what was actually happening. But also, I didn't want a story like on Friday, the day after, or the SEC presidents are gathering, and then you have this ripple effect of they're going to do something. And so we wanted to be patient and wanted to communicate. Again, we're comfortable at 16. There's no sense of urgency, no sense of panic. We're not just shooting for a number of affiliations that make us better. Could they be out there? I would never say they're not. I would never say that we will. We're going to be evaluating the landscape. I'm not going to speculate. And I actually am watching a lot of this activity operating around us, more so than impacting us directly.
So there's Greg Sankey saying, look, we're Super League. You can kind of make your jokes about it, but we're not going to be reactionary. We're going to be bringing in all the information, seeing if it affects us, and moving from there. So I think he kind of reiterated, look, we're happy with 16. And I'm sure they will be happy with 16, as he said, until you have time to let it settle and get more information. And when that more information is maybe the Big Ten goes bigger, or college football is going to expand the playoff, or maybe the NCAA does not have the handle on things that we once thought they did. Maybe we expand and do the football thing ourselves. I think he was clear to say we're happy at 16, but also made sure, he came back with the CYA, which for those who don't know what CYA is, fill it in with I'm never going to say never. I'm not going to say we're never going to do it, but for right now, with the information we have, we're Super League. We don't need to go out and get anybody else.
And Kevin, he kept it real close to the vest, as he has to. Nobody's going to protect the league more than the face of the league, that being Greg Sankey. When Greg Sankey's talking about we're not gonna be reactionary, that's basically saying we're going to continue to do what the SEC does, and that's apply pressure. We don't feel it, we apply it. Because Greg Sankey knows the minute that something outside of them, affects what they do, they're going to say, oh, they only doing this, they only doing that. That's why I said again what I said in the first hour. If anybody thinks that USC and UCLA is going to the Big Ten and Texas and Oklahoma are not going to be in the SEC, man, I'm trying to tell you, hey, man, I got a house to sell you, or we can go to Vegas. I can get you the 3-piece suit. Y'all know the routine. Greg Sankey is doing what he's supposed to do, Kevin. He is embracing the super conference. He knows he's humbly confident, very, very humble guy, but he knows, man, they ain't got what we got. Top to bottom, nobody has what we has. Top to bottom, we're putting 2 with 4. If they go to 8, that means we're going to get 4 out of 8. If you go to 12, you're going to get 6. He's saying, I am only adding teams that's going to, because they say top to bottom, Kevin, you look at the Big Ten, you look at the SEC. What if you had your pick? No one's played, and we got 8 teams. We got 8 teams. Yeah. Who you going to pick 4 from? Ohio State? Okay. Who else you got? Michigan? They've only won 1 year out of the last gazillion. Penn State can't be Ohio State or Michigan. Iowa's not a big enough draw. Michigan State can't beat the other big ones. Now you got Alabama. You got Georgia. Okay, what about second tier? Tennessee. You just said.
He was quick to point. We didn't have the comment there, but somebody asked him about the confidence of it. He goes, look, we've had 6 different national champions in the last 20 years. Maybe he said 25. 6 different teams have won national championship in the last 25 years. He said, there's nobody even close to saying that. Not one conference is even close.
Nope.
I think Clemson and Florida State in the ACC, that's it. Ohio State's got one.
That's it.
That's it. Pac-12.
SC.
You had Southern Cal.
That's it.
That's it. You've had Texas.
That's it.
Is that it? Yeah.
Oklahoma.
Oklahoma's made it.
Oklahoma won in what, 99?
So maybe in that last 25 years, Bob Stoops got him one. But think about that's it, 2, and that's it.
But think about it, Kevin. Your winningest coach got 1 in 99. You played Florida State when you got that.
Right.
Texas got you one of the greatest teams of all time. And since then, Oklahoma has been your representation in the college football playoff from the Big 12. Texas is a bigger brand, not on the field. USC needed a coach from the Big 12 to come over there to go back to the Big 10. So I need a Big 12 coach to go to the Pac-12 to then leave the Pac-12.
But they got their championships. USC did with Pete Carroll, who's pro coach.
Exactly.
NFL guy. Yeah.
So a guy like Greg Sankey is saying, hey man, if the SEC wasn't that attractive, why is Texas and Oklahoma coming over here? All we did is put in the call. We ain't twist their arm. You know what I'm saying? So and the whole thing about it is, we called them. Guess what? The Pac-12 calling Kevin Warren. And like I said, when it comes to the SEC, if you weren't already a part of it and you're trying to be a part of it, now it's how do you bring value to us? We know we bring value to you. We know that. how do you bring value to us? Because Kevin, Ole Miss won 10 games and no one's talking about it. That's how good the SEC is.
We've got more to come here. It is 3 and out. I believe our own Christian Gokel is caught up with BJ Ojolari with LSU. They are making the rounds there today as well. It's 3 and out on the Southern Pigskin Radio Network. Good to have you back. Here it is, 3 and Out on this Monday. SEC Media Days going on there in Atlanta. You had the commissioner, Ben, which we've talked about, obviously staking his position on the league and what's going on. You had Brian Kelly and his family that were there at the SEC Media Days today. So they were first up. Brand new coach, Brian Kelly, said, hey, go get him. You are first guy up out of the box. And you had Lane Kiffin with Ole Miss and Missouri there today as well. But our own Christian Gokel looks like he had a chance to catch up with BJ Ojulari, Ben, and talk to him about his season upcoming there at LSU. And obviously, you have Brian Kelly coming in. So we send it back to Atlanta. Our own Christian Gokel with BJ Ojulari.
Christian Gokel live from SEC Media Days 2022, catching up with all SEC standout BJ Ojulari here, and a guy who loves getting after the quarterback. But I want to ask you this. You have Brian Kelly coming in as a new head coach, knew everything pretty much, right? But you are one of the holdovers, one of the stalwarts. What kind of, I don't want to say pressure, but extra responsibilities has that added to you as you guys are heading into the season?
You know, it's just a lot of expectations, you know, from everybody. So I just have to withhold that. I know if I just play the football, I know how to play. Everything else is going to take care of itself. I just want to be more dominant and be that dominant player for the LSU Tigers to help my team win.
What have you noticed most of all as Brian Kelly's come in? Here's a guy who's obviously won a lot, been to the college football playoff a lot. Biggest transition from the old staff to the new staff. What have you noticed?
You know, just personality. That's the biggest thing. That's going to be the biggest change for any new staff coming in, just getting accustomed to the new personalities, your new position coach. But I think Coach Kelly, he came in, he's very calm. He's getting his point across. He has a plan, and as a player, you just have to follow it.
Now, I'm curious. I know there's a bunch of guys on the team that you're around every day that maybe we're not talking about right now. I know you guys take a lot of pride in what you do. Who are some names that we don't know right now, but come October and November, we're going to be talking about?
Yeah, there's so many names that, you know, I can just throw out there. On the defense side, I just said Jared Bernard Converse, he's a corner. Sevyn Banks, another corner. Joe Fouché, like Greg Brooks, like a lot of those guys are in-state guys that know what it means to play for LSU. So there's a lot of guys on the defense and offense end that's going to produce. And on the offense end, one of the guys I'm big on this year, John Emery.
Okay.
I think he's going to have a monster season, and that's one of my guys. And I just think he's a great running back.
Before we let you go, your brother Aziz, obviously in the NFL with New York, has spent a lot of time getting after the quarterback in the SEC for Georgia. Since he's moved on to the NFL and been able to get more specialized stuff, what have the conversations been like? What have you been able to learn from him? Because I know there's tricks to the trade. What are some of the secrets he's been able to teach you?
Yeah, you know, him being at the next level is just a great mentor for me, somebody to lean on, somebody to ask about the game and the aspect, and not just the game, just how is it just being in the NFL? How do you handle yourself? How do you carry yourself? But he gives me tips on pass rush. What is the NFL rush? What NFL rushes look like? So I can implement that in my game to, you know, just help me and help my future standards. But like I said before, if I just play the brand of football I know how to play, everything else is going to take care of itself.
BJ Ojulari, LSU, kind enough to take some time with us. BJ, I appreciate it, man.
Yes, sir. Thanks so much.
That's BJ Ojulari with our own Christian Gokel, Ben, and going to be a big piece of that LSU offense, or excuse me, LSU defense. I'm sorry, I had a brain slip there, but that LSU defense for Brian Kelly. And if you're coming in to the SEC, if there's one thing I'd say you better be good at, I know college football is ever evolving, and you go to the Big 12 and say, hey, if you can't score in the Big 12, you're going to be in trouble. If you can't score in the Pac-12, you're going to be in trouble. I would say this, even in 2022, been the age of offense in college football. If you go in the SEC and you cannot play defense, and I don't say that as like, oh no, but like if you can't play defense competently, you're going to struggle. I mean, Georgia had one of the all-time great defenses in the history of college football, won the national championship. Alabama's, when they've won their national championship, seemingly all the time, top 10 defense nationally out there on the field. You're not going to compete if you can't get off the field in the SEC. While we've seen the spread come in the SEC, and we've seen more wide open offenses, it still comes down to me. The SEC is still the machismo conference of when it's a big time SEC game, and doesn't necessarily have to be Bama versus Georgia, but when it's a big time SEC game that you're playing, it's my guys are going to beat your guys physically and with speed and we're going to beat you into submission as a defense and get off the field. And I still feel at my core that's what the SEC is all about.
It is. I mean, the thing what separates the SEC more than any other conference is in the trenches. You start looking at you start looking at offensive line play, you start looking at defensive line play, and whoever can create a different line of scrimmage is going to have the better shot of winning games. And one thing that Ojulari said in his interview with Christian is that he said, I want to be more dominant. The more dominant I am, the better I'm going to help the rest of the defensive line. His brother, obviously playing at Georgia, having him as a mentor to kind of show him this is how you go about your business. But I'll talk to you about the NFL once you get in the NFL. You got to handle your business in Baton Rouge right now, because the thing is, you don't want to be a good player, on a bad team. You want to elevate your team to a good team because of the player that you are. It's obviously the gene pool is serious, right? I mean, it's not like Ojulari can't get out there and rush the passer, but can you be a difference maker? Because this time last year, Kevin, when you saw Jordan Davis, he played and looked the same. That dude looked like he moved grown men around, and he did. He takes it on the double team every single play. Look at how much better he made Nakobe Dean. Look how much better he made Javon Walker, and so on and so forth. I think what Ojulari is understanding is that, look, man, I don't want to hear that rebuild stuff. That's the head man. His name is Brian Kelly. Came over from Notre Dame. I'm going to buy into his system because I fit in his system. I'm going to go in and buy in because the thing is, I want to be a part of the resurgence. Yes, I've been here long enough to be here, for that 2019 team. That's over with. I want to show that I could be a key contributor when my numbers, when it's time for me to go out there and ball. And Kevin, just like I know, once LSU go out there on the field, I don't want to hear about discrepancies. I don't want to hear about what you don't got, because you got great players. Great players. Your former cornerback, Ricks, he's over there right now in Alabama. Why? Because he wanted to go to a team that's going to compete. So Ojulari is going to be an incredible player. But yes, I mean, I think he hit it on the head. He's talking about other players on the team. But like you said, Kevin, this time last year, Kirby Smart knew this. I got the number one defense in the country. So if you're going to beat us, you got to score on us, right? Look at any form of sports. Basketball. Hey man, we got to make shots. We got to make shots on offense. We got to defend on defense. Baseball. We got to go out there we got to go out there and mash on offense. We got to keep them from scoring on defense. Football. The low man wins. Whoever can create a different line of scrimmage. Boring football. Georgia game was boring last year. Why? Because the offense couldn't score. Opposing offense, like, dude, these dudes are, yeah. How many of them is out there? It's 11, but it looked like it's 20 of them when they coming at you. Ojulari, he wants some of that. And think about this. He could have went to Georgia. Of course, Georgia recruited the little brother, like the little Ojulari. But he says, look, man, yeah, he got his legacy at Georgia. I want to build my own legacy at LSU. I always respect that. But now that the rubber about to beat the road, Kevin, here in month or so,
yeah,
it's time for him to go out there and prove that he can do it.
And not that Brian Kelly can't coach defense. He's had good defenses at Notre Dame, but I think you really got to take it to that next level. There, when you're in the SEC, you can have a great offense, but I think if you can't stop people in the SEC, it's going to be for naught. I mean, we've seen coaches win at other places with offense. You go to you go to Big 12. Hey, if I can score 60 a game, I'm going to beat a lot of people. Why? Because I'm going to outscore you. Mike Gundy does a great job of that. Hey, we're going to outscore you every single week. We're going to outscore you. Problem is, nothing feels comfortable if you can't get off the field. And I think in the SEC, you've got to be able to, as you said, Ben, move the line of scrimmage, impose your will defensively so that your offense can go and do its thing, even with kind of the new style of college football that's out there these days. We got more to come. We'll hear more from SEC Media Days. It's 3 and Out on the Southern Pigskin Radio Network. Good to have you back. Here it is, 3 and Out on the Southern Pigskin Radio Network. Good to have you along. Thanks for making us a part of your day. Plenty to get to here on the show, Ben, as SEC Media Days day number 1 continues rolling right along. And we're going to check in with our own Christian Gokel. I believe he said he's got a Ole Miss guest for us to hear from. And, obviously Lane Kiffin, 10 wins last year in the regular season. Kind of goes unnoticed because we're talking about Saban. We're talking about, Jimbo Fisher. We're talking about Brian Kelly coming in, and you go, Ole Miss was actually pretty good last year.
At the end of the day, Kevin, you know what? Lane Kiffin understands what he's up against. I mean, we don't give him enough credit because I don't think we're grading. We shouldn't be grading every coach on the same scale. I don't grade Sam Pittman, Lane Kiffin, Mike Leach on the same scale as I do, Coach Harsin, Jimbo Fisher, Brian Kelly, and Nick Saban. But 10 wins is hard to do in college football, period, let alone up in the SEC West. So shout out to Lane Kiffin. I mean, but replacing a lot with a guy, Matt Corral, who did a lot, not just for the offense, but the entire team.
Our own Christian Gokel there in Atlanta at the SEC Media Days at the College Football Hall of Fame, and he's standing by with, looks like, Mike Borky, Sports Talk Mississippi.
Welcome back into ESPN Coastal. Christian Gokel live from 2022 SEC Media Days. Ole Miss on the docket today, so everyone's favorite soundbite, Lane Kiffin. I guess the two guys from Mississippi, everybody's favorite soundbite. But kind enough to join us here from Sports Talk Mississippi, Mike Borky. Appreciate you taking the time, and I know a busy day for you guys and an exciting year. We're a Georgia affiliate, right? So we have been dealing with the fact that Georgia won the national championship, and it's been like the quietest national championship celebration in history leading up to this. Zero conversation about it heading into this. Kind of in that same vein, Ole Miss, 10-win football team last year and quietly coming in, nobody talking about them competing for that SEC West title.
And this, it may or may not blow your mind, but that was Ole Miss's first 10-win regular season ever.
Right.
So they had won 10 games with the bowl game before, but first 10-win regular season ever. The difference is that the offense in particular is going to look very, very different. And not just because Matt Corral's gone. Jeff Lebby's gone as well, the offensive coordinator. He's off to Oklahoma. But it's everywhere. 4 of the 5 offensive linemen are back, but right tackle's a transfer. The entire running back room except for 1, so 3 of the 4 are either a freshman or a transfer. All of the starting wide receivers except for 1 will be a transfer, and the starting tight end will be a transfer. So it's not just losing the quarterback in Jeff Lebby, it's replacing basically the entire offense. Now, they're really talented on paper, but they haven't played for Ole Miss yet, like Zach Evans, a running back, former 5-star. Michael Trigg, the tight end, former 5-star, and on and on. Talented football team, but if you ask me, like, hey, how good are they going to be? I don't know. I mean, we just haven't seen these guys play together yet with Charlie Weiss Jr. calling plays. So it's a complete turnover from last year's team, and they're kind of really they are really hard to prognosticate because of that.
Well, we saw it work last year, right, with like a Michigan State where they bring in just a boatload of transfers, comes in, and they have a 10-win season last year, right? But SEC, we haven't really seen that thus far. It's still very early in the transfer portal free year process, but with Lane Kiffin and his ability to just kind of mold himself to an offense and to a skill players, right? What we saw him with all the different quarterbacks that he had in his time at Alabama and how he was able to change the offenses around them. Does that give you some confidence heading into this season?
It should. I mean, he's done this before. You think he can do it. You always give Lane Kiffin the benefit of the doubt with offense.
Sure.
That's just something that, because of sample size, it's not just when he was at Alabama. His offenses at FAU were great. Even his time at Southern Cal, which everybody makes fun of because he got fired on a tarmac, they were dealing with crippling NCAA sanctions that were not his fault. He took them over, and they were still competitive and competent. So you just assume that Lane Kiffin's going to figure it out offensively. They are a fascinating football team. If you are interested at all in roster composition, I know that doesn't sound very sexy, but Ole Miss is going to continue to approach roster building this way. This isn't a one-off. Like LSU added a bunch of transfers. They're going to do that one time, and then it's back to traditional recruiting. This is going to be Lane Kiffin. I mean, I've heard that they won't sign more than maybe a dozen high school players in this recruiting cycle. This is what Lane Kiffin is going to do, and honestly, I applaud it because you're a Georgia affiliate. You cover Georgia. In no world will Ole Miss, they couldn't before, but now in the NIL era, ever recruit the same way Georgia does and get the same players that Georgia does. You want to know how I know that? 60 years of sample size that says Ole Miss can't recruit the traditional way and win in the SEC. It won't happen because they don't do it. Even when they have a 10-win season, you saw the talent disparity between them and Alabama. Like, great Ole Miss team for Ole Miss, still not competitive with the best teams in college football. So they have to be different. This way allows them to add talent. They've got a pretty talented team. And truthfully, in the NIL era, it fits their budget.
Yeah.
So this is what they're going to continue to do moving forward, because this is the only way they feel like they can actually maybe build rosters that can actually maybe compete with the best in college football. Because the old way, it's not a winning way, and we've seen that for
Sure, and you talk
now.
about recruiting and recruiting translating to winning, and we can go through all the stats about percentage of blue chips and just how that's been dominated by about 3 or 4 teams in college football. They're the ones that you typically see in the playoff. But for the Ole Misses of the world that you're saying, taking a different tact, is there a different tact kind of in the way they're going to approach the games themselves, right? Because if you're not recruiting the blue chip offensive lineman and the blue chip defensive lineman, you're not just going to line up head to head and pound Alabama into the dust, right? You're going to have to do it with a different kind of method, right?
Right.
Do you see Lane Kiffin as the guy that, listen, if we can get into a one-off where you beat Alabama, just upset them, and then you have to lose a couple or you're going to Atlanta? Is that kind of the operation you see going on?
What's so interesting about Lane Kiffin is year to year, the offense is so different.
Right.
You know, we cover Mike Leach as well, and it is, I'm going to do this, and I'm going to do this every game against every team, and I don't care what my personnel is. This is what I'm going to do forever. Lane Kiffin's offense has changed by personnel. So last year, they threw the ball around a lot earlier in the season because Matt Corral was healthy. He got hurt, changed things a little bit. They won games on defense. But this year, because of the uncertainty at quarterback and the offensive line being as good as it is and the running back room being as good as it is, I wouldn't be surprised to see this Ole Miss team kind of line up and run the football at people. Now, it's going to have spread looks and all that.
Oh, yeah.
But they're going to run the football this year, which is weird to say about Ole Miss, but they were, second in the SEC in rushing last year and first in 2020. So they've been good at it anyway. But I think that'll be especially the emphasis with this team, which is counter to what you think about a Lane Kiffin team. Great tight end and great running game is going to carry them this year probably because, again, you don't know what you have at quarterback.
Sure. Let's flip it over to defensive side of the ball. And again, we're joined by Mike Borky, Sports Talk Mississippi here, and 190 yards a game on the ground. So we talked about them being excellent running the football, but stopping the run last year, kind of an Achilles heel of this team. Again, you're playing some teams really good at running the football, but at the same time, 190 yards. If you want to crack that threshold, we're going to a New Year's Six or potentially competing for a SEC championship. That probably not going to get it done.
Yeah, and they did get better at the end of the season last year. So the first 6-7 weeks of the year, they were horrendous. I mean, let's just be honest. They were pathetic defensively. Got better as the year went on. That should be a position of or a unit of strength. Defensive line, they do lose Sam Williams, who was a second-round draft pick. Probably should have been a first-round pick, if we're being honest. He had some off-the-field concerns that probably fell him out of the first round, but first-round talent at defensive end. They lose Chance Campbell at linebacker, who was a significant piece last year, but the entire secondary is back, which was good at the end of last year. And the people in the program feel like defensive line is as deep as they've had in quite some time. So defensively, they, despite those 2 losses, actually should be pretty good. But here's another issue, more turnover. DJ Durkin was a defensive coordinator. He's now at Texas A&M. In steps his co-DC from last year, Chris Partridge, but he was not the play caller. So it's continuity because he was there and he was co-DC and all that, but he wasn't the play caller last year. So talent-wise, should be pretty good for an Ole Miss defense. But what's a Chris Partridge called defense going to look like? We just don't know. It's so fascinating, but talent is absolutely there for them to be pretty salty on that side of the ball, at least.
What do you think the best case scenario is on that side of the ball? Because I know
top 50, probably a top 50 defense.
I guess I mean like in terms of identity, because I know some teams want to line up and just stop the run, force you to be one-dimensional and throw it. But I've seen more and more with spread offenses like a Lane Kiffin runs where, hey, we're going to score 30 points a game. So if you score 28, 24, 28, we're going to win. It's not going to be the Kirby Smart, Nick Saban way of doing it where we want to hold you under 10. Is it, hey, we want to get some explosive plays on defense. If we can steal a couple of possessions, we feel like the defense had a good day.
Yeah, they ran a 3-2-6 last year. Yeah. So they had 5 guys in the box last year. And It started working later in the year. I've heard that they're going to go more traditional 4-man fronts at times, but they're going to lean on secondary play. I mean, that defense is going to be built on stopping spread offenses with 6 defensive backs on the field. They will have like a hybrid safety that plays up close to the line of scrimmage. I guess you can call him a linebacker, but
Sure.
It's not a linebacker. It's a true safety. That'll be their identity, though, is stopping spread offenses, opportunistic, big plays, that kind of thing. When you're running 5 guys in the box, it's hard to stop the run. Alabama showed them that last year. But that's where the talent is in the back end. So you're going to see 5, 6 defensive back sets for that defense, and they're going to try to take the spread away, take the pass away, and be opportunistic and force turnovers.
I want to take a look at the schedule. I think very generous, especially at the beginning, right? Troy at home, Central Arkansas at home, and then you hit the road to take on Georgia Tech. But anybody that's been following Jeff Collins' program knows not in good shape, and that's a team that will have already played Clemson by then, so maybe a little bit beat up. Tulsa, and then you get to Kentucky, who another turning into a perennial 10-win team, so the first real test of the year. But after that, Vanderbilt, legitimate shot. You're 6-0 going into hosting Auburn at home, which is just, say what you will about Auburn, always a massive game, typically a tight game. So sets up really well for potentially, if you've only had one in your history, a couple of 10-win regular seasons in a row.
There's a chance they're favored in their first 7 games this season. And that'll help with the quarterback issue. Now, they're breaking in a new starter, doesn't matter which one, Jackson Dart, the USC transfer, former 5-star, and Luke Altmaier, who's a homegrown kid, was a blue chip himself. It'll give them time to kind of figure that out because, as you said, I mean, they got to go to Georgia Tech, but in terms of one roster versus the other,
stadium will be mostly blue.
Ole Miss should be the better team that day. It'll give them time to kind of get acclimated. That Kentucky game, I know Ole Miss and Kentucky for Georgia fans, like, who cares, whatever, but that should be actually a really fun, exciting game, possibly 2 top 15 teams if Kentucky can go to Florida and win.
Sure.
But the schedule allows for them to kind of ease into breaking in a new quarterback, a new offensive coordinator anyway, similar offense. That helps a lot. You get Auburn at home, you get Mississippi State at home, and their final 6 games are all SEC games with a bye week splitting them. Yeah. So it's a very favorable schedule. They should be favored in probably 7 or 8 games just right now without even thinking about it. So could be another decent year in terms of win-loss record.
And then just ends with a drum solo, right? At LSU, at Texas A&M, Alabama at home, at Arkansas, and then the Egg Bowl, of course, to finish out the season. So it could go a few different ways, but I do think it should be just a really fun season, if nothing else, for Ole Miss. Before we let you get out of here, you mentioned the quarterbacks there. I know usually we ask people, who do you think it's going to be game 1, but expect to see both those guys.
I would be shocked if they both don't play. I think Jackson Dart, though, has the higher ceiling. That's the thing with these 2 guys, and they showed you in the spring what they're good at, what they're bad at. Jackson Dart is extremely talented. I think his ceiling is much higher than Luke Altmaier's, but his floor is much lower. Lane Kiffin has said multiple times that Jackson Dart's trying to win the job with every throw, and he's being careless, turning the football over. Luke Altmaier does not turn the football over, at least didn't in spring practice and in the spring game. So it all depends on if Jackson Dart cannot turn the football over. If he protects the ball, he's your guy for sure. Far more talented. But if he doesn't, Lane Kiffin's not going to stand for that at all, especially with how talented they are and how good they'll be in the running game. He won't stand for that. I think it's going to be Jackson Dart, though. If you had to ask, if I had to put money on it, the more talented guy is going to win out.
All right, one more before we let you get out of here, because I do like getting the outside looking in perspective. What's your take on Georgia going into this season?
Oh, I mean, they're not going to lose a game, and they're going to go to the SEC championship again, and it'll be a war with Alabama. I love college football.
You don't think Tennessee or Florida can pull it off?
No.
No?
Oh, no. Oh, no. I mean, not even replacing what Georgia has to replace on defense. I have a feeling that now Kirby Smart has not figured out the Nick Saban model, but losses aren't going to hurt that program anymore. It's just replacing one elite level player with a less experienced elite level player at this point. No, I think he's got a machine going right now. And the 2 best teams in college football are going to meet in the SEC championship again.
That's our own Christian Gokel with Mike Borky there of Mississippi Sports Talk. Mississippi, Ole Miss making the rounds today at SEC Media Days. We'll come back with more 3 and Out all across the Southern Pigskin Radio Network. It is 3 and out home run derby tonight. So first time in a long time we haven't had any baseball going on because we're at the All-Star break. You got the home run derby tonight. Acuna. Well, I would say he drew the short end, Ben. You going up? I mean, look, you're going up against the 2-time defending guy is nicknamed the polar bear. He looks like a polar bear.
Yep.
Like, just go out there and
Shout out
do
to the medium side, with a medium height, thick fellas in the world.
It's like you finally make it to the NCAA tournament. They're like, and you get Duke in the first round.
Yeah.
Okay, thanks, man. I appreciate that. Like, we couldn't have gotten like Northwestern State or something. Like,
But Kevin, I hear that everybody's all starstruck when it comes to old Albert Pujols, which this is his last one, having his moment. The oldest player, in the bigs, but home run derby still a spectacle. I'm looking forward to it. Pete Alonso, hey man, I'm rooting for you because you went to Florida, but I don't like the colors, because they got Mets on the front.
Yeah, you got to hope Acuna gets it done. We'll see you tomorrow. Home run derby coverage tonight starting at 8 p.m. We'll see you tomorrow on 3 and Out.